Hello everyone, it's Top Romance here. Before watching the video, please take 3 seconds to like the video and subscribe to the channel so I can have more motivation to make more high-quality videos. Thank you very much. I wish you a happy new day. At this moment, a horse was galloping forward. On its back was a black-clad figure with a covered face and a young woman with a bewildered expression, not understanding what was happening. The man frowned and cursed, "Damn it, they're catching up already." Another group of soldiers was chasing them from behind, causing crows to take flight in a panic. Suddenly, one of them shouted, "Han Lang cavalry are here. Surrender now." Hearing this, the black-clad figure's face became more fearful. He frowned and glanced back, muttering, "The Han Lang cavalry again." They continued to chase each other for a long distance. The woman in front panicked and looked back, saying, "Stop." Seeing her defiance, one of the Han Lang cavalrymen continued, "Audacious criminal, surrender now. If the third princess is harmed, you'll be held accountable." The man frowned and muttered disdainfully, "Running into the third prince's men is never a good thing." He then drew a dagger from his waist. At the same time, someone behind him drew their bow, aiming forward. He stabbed the horse beneath him, causing it to cry out in pain. The arrow quickly flew forward, instantly piercing the black-clad figure. Struck by the arrow, he fell from the horse, his body covered in blood, letting out a cry of pain. The horse continued to gallop forward. The third princess, her eyes wide with fear, looked around and desperately clung to the neck of the frantic horse. Suddenly, a figure appeared, wielding a whip and directing it towards her. The whip instantly wrapped around her waist, causing her eyes to widen in surprise. Before she could react, the figure pulled her back. The third princess's body was yanked away, her eyes bewildered as she looked at the person who had just pulled her from the crazed horse. At the same time, the figure quickly reached out, catching her completely in his arms. The man, his face partially obscured by a silk veil, gazed intently at the person in his embrace. She stared back at him, unable to help but admire his beautiful eyes. Then she closed her eyes and fainted. Rewinding to half a month earlier, in a bamboo forest near the outskirts of Xi'an City, within a small estate, a man sat in a wheelchair, attended by someone awaiting his orders. The man in the wheelchair, third prince Nguhan Khan, slowly sipped his tea. He calmly asked the person beside him, "What is the matter this time?" The attendant hastily bowed and reported, "Your Highness, I have sent people to inquire about the marriage His Majesty is arranging for you. All the records of the young women in the Lu Shuyanlang household are here." He looked over and asked, intrigued, "Lu Shuyanlang? The incense-making family?" The man beside him glanced at the records and slowly replied, "Yes. The head of the Lang family officially has 2 children, second Miss and third Mississippi. Second Miss is highly talented and favored within the Lang family. Her appearance is ordinary, but her personality is somewhat arrogant." Beneath the surface of a nearby lake, fish swam, causing ripples. Nguhan Khan's voice slowly rang out, "And what about third Miss?" Hearing this, the attendant hesitated. His gaze shifted elsewhere as he replied, "Although third Miss is the daughter of the Lang family head, she wasn't born to his wife. She's timid by nature, knows nothing of incense, and her health is poor." At this, the person in front slowly spoke, having heard those words, causing the man behind him to ask in surprise, "Your Highness, what did you say?" Only then did he calmly continue, "Third Miss Lang has an introverted personality. Bringing her in won't cause any trouble. Moreover, the previous emperor wronged the Lang family's ancestors years ago. This time, I will preserve a descendant with good potential for them." At that moment, a fish in the pond splashed its tail, creating a pleasant sound. Nguhan Khan, his face filled with helplessness, said vulgarly, "Besides, in my current situation, I don't even know how long I'll live. A short lifespan combined with another short lifespan. It's not a shameful match. You may leave." Hearing these words, the person beside him hastily bowed in acknowledgement and quickly departed. The rustling sound of bamboo echoed through the grove. Nguhan Khan slowly stood up. He looked at the scene before him, thinking to himself, "I've already secluded myself to this extent, yet they still make arrangements like this. Do I truly frighten them that much?" These questions lingered in his mind. That be why the mandate of heaven. The emperor decrees that third Miss Lang Li of the Lang Yuan family, having reached a marriageable age and possessing both beauty and virtue, is hereby bestowed upon third Prince Nguyen Khan as his official wife. Expedite the selection of an auspicious date for the wedding. By imperial decree. At this moment, from within the Lu Shuyanlang residence, a furious curse rang out, damnable. An old woman with silver hair cursed incessantly. Our ancestors established a rule. Lang daughters shall not marry into the imperial family, and Lang sons shall not take imperial wives. Were the words of our ancestors a jest? The man standing before the old woman lowered his head, his voice trembling slightly. Mother, please don't be angry and harm your health. I also don't know why the imperial family suddenly changed their mind. Now, I can only hope that Mother will offer guidance regarding this imperial marriage proposal. The old woman's face was stern, her eyes sharp as she looked at the man before her. Unable to restrain her questioning that you've brought the wolf into the house and now hope to drive it out without any harm. He listened, his face darkening, and stammered, "I." Meanwhile, in another courtyard, a figure flashed past a window. A hesitant voice from inside asked, "Must I drink it?" A maid sat beside a young woman, gently persuading her, "Miss, your health is frail. You absolutely must not stop taking this medicine." The young woman was Langley. She held the bowl of medicine, her eyes filled with sadness as she thought, "I couldn't even die in peace. Now, after transmigrating, I have to live in a sickly body. This is truly unfortunate." At this moment, memories of her past life flooded back. She couldn't help but think, I was a rising star in the 21st century perfume industry, on the verge of creating eternal red dust. But unexpectedly, I died young. The maid beside her, seeing the stiffness in her expression, urged, "Miss, if you don't drink it, the medicine will get cold." Suddenly, someone kicked open the door, accompanied by a shout, "Langley." The woman who entered was Lang Ji. Her eyes arrogant, she barked, "Don't you dare play coy with me. Are you going to hand it over or not?" The maid quickly stepped in front of the newcomer, saying, "Second, miss." Langley slowly asked in return, "Hand over what?" Lang Ji, as if losing her mind, violently shoved the maid aside and yelled, "Get out of the way. You're still pretending, aren't you? Don't think that just because you're marrying into the imperial family, you could transform into a phoenix." Then, she stood looking down, sarcastically questioning, "After all, how formidable was that fool Nguyen Khan before? Now he's just a blind and crippled invalid. Do you still think he can protect you?" Langley calmly looked at the aggressive person in front of her and slowly replied, "In short, I'm getting married. It's none of your concern." Langji looked at the person opposite her with contempt and continued, "Oh, right. A frail life combined with a cripple, truly a match made in heaven." After that, she turned and left. Ignoring the two stunned people behind her, she slammed the door shut before leaving. Langley, watching what had just transpired, wondered in confusion. What did she come here for? Just to say those harsh words. Her maid turned around worriedly and spoke up, "Miss," but before she could finish, Langley gently interrupted, "Don't worry. It won't be any worse than our current situation, right? Hurry up and pack. We're about to leave." Langley then ordered with a thoughtful expression, "Quickly now." Heavy raindrops continuously fell. Inside, with her hair down, Langley looked outside. Suddenly, something caught her attention. She slowly walked over and lifted a box, wondering, "What is this?" She quickly opened it. Inside were several old books. She gently picked one up, and as she lightly touched it, a sudden headache struck, causing her to cry out in pain. At that moment, the original owner's memories flooded her mind. A calm voice echoed, "Miss, you've finally grown up. I can give you the items your mother entrusted to me for safekeeping." Two figures, one tall and one small, stood backlit, looking at each other without saying anything more. After receiving those memories, Lang Li seemed to awaken. Looking at the book in her hand, she thought, so the thing Lang Ji wanted to find was these incense manuals. Her eyes sparkled with uncontainable excitement as she looked at the items in her hand. She felt both thrilled and curious. With these, I can continue my incense research, right? And they won't dare to act rashly against me anymore. She excitedly opened the book, but just a few seconds later, she stared blankly at what was written inside, murmuring in doubt, I can't understand these ancient ingredients. Why are they different from modern ones? She held the book up high, her mind filled with confusion and bewilderment. It seems I have to start my research from the basics. After a period of time, red and black decorations for the wedding were hung everywhere. Bright red confetti was thrown. Red silk ribbons were strung along the path. Lang Li, dressed in a wedding gown, was carefully escorted by two maids. Inside, a man and a woman were sitting. They were the head and mistress of the Lang family. She quickly knelt before them and softly said, "Daughter bids farewell to mother and father." The man, her father, looked at her with apologetic eyes. "For all these years, I haven't taken good care of you. Now that you're entering the royal family, you must be careful with every word and action." After hearing his advice, she simply bowed her head and softly replied, "Yes, daughter will remember your teachings." In the distance, Lang Ji was secretly watching her every move. At the same time, a maid quickly approached and announced, "Miss, it's time to leave." Hearing this, she turned, covered her face with a fan, and walked away without looking back, determined in her heart, "If I've been reborn into this incense-making family, then this is fate's arrangement." Langley was led out of the Liu Shuyan Lang residence by servants. Everything was ready. A voice called out, "Depart." At that moment, a teacup shattered. A furious voice followed. "Why are you only telling me this now?" Lang Ji knelt beside her mother. "Mother, please calm down. Anger is bad for your health. The most important thing now is to retrieve the Diu Hung incense manual for you." Lang Ji stood up, struggling to contain her fury. "I'm going to send a message to my Jiao. Tell him this mission must be completed. Before Zhang Lai enters Huintan, capture her. He must not fail." Lang Ji finally looked up at the woman before her. With a determined gaze, she replied, "Yes, I'll go right away." As she left, the older woman furrowed her brow and covered her mouth with a handkerchief, muttering, "You little wretch. Let's see how many more days you'll enjoy your good fortune." The bridal procession slowly moved along the small road towards Huintan. Inside the carriage, a sneeze suddenly echoed. Zhang Lai, reading a book, looked puzzled. Rubbing her nose, she thought, "Why do I feel like someone is cursing me?" Her maid hurried over with a bowl of water. "Miss, don't overthink it," she said softly. "The first madam mentioned that your illness stems from thinking too much. You've only just started to improve. Please don't dwell on things." Just then, the carriage stopped. A figure lifted the carriage curtain and looked inside. "Miss Lang," she said, that "I am Ha Tuet, one of the prince's guards." Ha Tuet continued in a gentle voice, "The journey to Huintan is long. The prince specifically instructed me to take good care of you." With that, she entered the carriage. Zhang Li's maid quickly bowed, that "We apologize for the trouble." Zhang Lai also looked at Ha Tuet and replied softly, "The prince is so thoughtful. Thank you, Sister Ha Tuet, for your assistance on this journey." Hearing these words, Ha Tuet looked at Zhang Lai with surprise, thinking, "This third Miss Lang doesn't seem to match the rumors of her being sickly and frail. She's not like other women. Her eyes and demeanor are sharp." This seemed quite interesting. A hint of amusement played on her lips. The maid quickly offered her a bowl of water. Accepting it, Ha Tuet spoke carefully, "Miss Lang, forgive my boldness, but you are quite different from what I've heard." She hesitated slightly. Zhang Lai smiled and asked, "Are you thinking that Lang Ji simply found someone to take her place?" Zhang Lai, who was drinking water, startled slightly at the question and let out a small ah. She then slowly explained, "I was indeed introverted and self-absorbed before. But after I became gravely ill and brushed with death, I've come to understand many things." Ha Tuet couldn't help but sigh in a wonder. But at the same time, she thought, "None of you have met the real Lang Zhang Lai. Besides, I can't keep up this sickly act much longer." Looking at Zhang Lai with interest, she suggested, "Miss Lang, we seem to get along. Let's chat a bit more. I serve the prince, but I'm not affiliated with the third prince's residence. Although the third prince's residence is quieter compared to other royal and noble households, caution is always paramount." Then, the image of Ngahan Khan, his eyes cold and a blood-stained sword in his hand, flashed through her mind. She continued, "Moreover, before his injury, the prince was constantly at war, protecting the border. He barely spent any time in Huintan. Although he intends to protect you and ensure you have a comfortable life." She paused, her expression turning slightly somber. Zhang Lai seemed to understand the deeper meaning behind her words, then nodded and thanked them. "I understand." 5 days later, at a funeral parlor, the people escorting the bride, dressed in red, unloaded large mirrors and furniture. Some led horses, while others sat drinking tea and resting. A platter of enticing food was brought over. Lang Jiang Lai slowly scooped a spoonful. then slowly savored it. Not far away, the maid standing next to Hashue whispered, "Sister Hashue, do you know who is in the third prince's residence?" Having overheard the other's conversation, she couldn't help but be curious. Looking over and hearing the question, Hashue calmly recounted the prince's youth. His Majesty once helped him take a concubine, but the prince, often away at war, didn't want intimacy. This time, the emperor bestowed a marriage, but then stopped. Her eyes darted away. Just then, the person opposite her, eager to hear more, urged, "What else? Tell me." Hashue then looked directly at her and continued. The emperor also chose a secondary consort for the prince at the same time, to be brought into the residence on the same wedding day. Jiang Lai, excitedly enjoying the gossip, thought, the royal harem is indeed lively. But outwardly, she maintained a gentle demeanor, replying, "Yes, I remember. We should treat each other harmoniously and carefully live out our days." After hearing these words, Hashue quickly reminded her, "Miss Lang, once you marry into the prince's residence, you will be the princess consort. Living harmoniously is good, but don't let others bully you." A maid behind them looked worriedly at the two. Jiang Lai, after hearing these words, hesitantly replied, "Right. So, what kind of person is the third prince?" As soon as she finished speaking, her eyes drooped slightly, and she thought to herself, "After all, I'm his person. If he doesn't like me, I can think of a way to escape early." Hearing the question, Hashue crossed her arms thoughtfully and said, "The prince is a very good person." Hearing the answer, Jiang Lai froze, her hands gripping the locks of hair on either side of her temples, her mind racing. Just then, a hurried call came from outside Commander Shui. Commander Shui. Hearing the call, Hashue quickly bowed and excused herself. As she left, the other maid couldn't help but whisper, "Sister Hashue is really interesting." Jiang Lai, no longer eating, stood up to leave, not forgetting to instruct, "Clean these things up. I'm sleepy." As she walked, thoughts swirled in her head. These past few days, I felt like something is going to happen. I can't rest. I'm truly delirious. She was closing her eyes to rest when a scent suddenly attracted her attention. She couldn't help but ask, "Taofun, do you smell something?" Startled by the sudden call, Taofun looked over and quickly replied, No, I don't smell anything." But before she could finish, she fainted, the tray in her hands clattering to the floor. Hearing the noise, Jiang Lai quickly turned around. Alarmed, she rushed to Taofun's side, calling her name. She immediately helped her up, opened a small bottle, and held it to Taofun's nose. A moment later, Taofun opened her eyes groggily, her head still in a daze, stammering me, "Miss, what happened?" Seeing that Taofun was awake, Jiang Lai quickly replied, "I don't know. I just smelled something strange. Luckily, grandmother gave me a bottle of medicine that can neutralize any scent. Otherwise," her face suddenly filled with alarm as she looked towards the main door and exclaimed, "It's dangerous. The others might be poisoned too." Without hesitation, she ran outside, ignoring Taofun's bewildered gaze. Her mind was focused on one thought. No matter what, saving people is paramount. Along the corridor, Lang Jiang Lai ran urgently. Her anxious eyes darted through the shadows. Suddenly, she saw several figures sprawled on the floor, unconscious. Panic welled up inside her. But immediately, she snatched up her clothes and ran forward. A hand holding a cloth lunged out, and before she could react, it was firmly pressed over her face. Lang Jiang Lai, caught completely off guard, could only widen her eyes in shock, staring ahead. She struggled briefly, letting out a small cry, but after only a few seconds, her gaze grew cloudy, quickly falling into a hazy state under the moonlight. As the full moon hung suspended in the air, a figure dressed in black rode swiftly through the night. Ahead of him was the silhouette of someone in wedding attire, moving silently. The black-clad figure gripped the reins tightly, his eyes intently following the path ahead. But he didn't know that in her palm, she still held a vial of antidote. Quickly, Miss Lang used her thumb to open the vial, and a gentle fragrance immediately diffused into the air. The man behind her furrowed his brow, his gaze calm but sharp. He spoke, "Miss Lang, you're awake." Hearing that sound, Lang Jiang Lai looked back in surprise. he slowly questioned, unexpectedly. Third Miss Lang knows about fragrance blending and can even counteract the Gwen Hoa I personally concocted. Truly surprising. He continued, his voice turning cold. Why do you know about fragrance blending and spread false rumors? Hearing this, her face paled, her voice slightly hesitant. She replied, you're threatening me again. The other person wasn't angry, but his eyes sharpened. He furrowed his brow and continued to ask, do you know my name? It's pointless. People look at us. Everything is pointless. After that, he no longer held back, shouting, so stop changing the subject. Answer my question. Seeing he had lost his composure, Lang Zhonglai stammered, I don't know about fragrance blending. The antidote came from the Lang family. The horse's hooves continued to pound, kicking up dust. The black-clad figure couldn't help but laugh loudly. Ha ha. The Lang family truly living up to their reputation as a fragrance blending family. A blunder. But then he leaned in, his tone icy. I ask you, did you not think that Nguyen Kham would send someone to rescue you? The figure in front, hearing this, looked bewildered and didn't answer. Seeing the state, he added mockingly, don't dream. His current situation isn't any better than yours. Lang Zhonglai, hearing this, frowned slightly and retorted, what do you mean by that? The other person didn't hesitate, replying slowly, right now he's just a cripple. Some say he's safe and sound, protected by the emperor. But others say he's actually under house arrest by the emperor. No matter how you put it, they all want to drive him to his death. The black-clad figure's eyes now looked Lang Zhonglai up and down, judging her appearance. Sallow skin and a frail physique. Just one look, and you can tell there's no sign of prosperity entering this Winton. Clearly, there's only a path to death. But suddenly, his eyes widened, his heart filled with unease. He thought to himself, Han Lang's cavalry, even I didn't detect them. He quickly tightened his grip on the reins, staring straight ahead, not forgetting to warn, hold on tight. Falling off will result in being trampled. That would be asking for trouble. Seeing this, Lang Zhonglai grimaced and hugged the horse's neck tightly, trying to avoid falling. The black-clad figure couldn't help but sneer. Nguyen Khan truly cares for you, sending them here. Behind them, a man with a scar over his eye stared intently at the figure ahead, furrowing his brow and shouting, who is it? Why are you trying to kidnap the princess consort? The speaker, riding in pursuit, was Xian Lei. Beside him was another man. His face was completely covered with black silk. His sharp eyes locked onto his target. He ran ahead, shouting, pay up for the kill. What are all these questions for? Xian Lei, from behind, grew even angrier. He shouted, hand over the princess consort unharmed, and I'll let you live. The man in black slowly turned his head, looking back. He replied, no way. I have to take her to collect the bounty. How can I give her to you? Besides, she won't be your princess consort for much longer. As soon as he finished speaking, he felt a strange pain in his body, causing his face to contort. A scream escaped his lip sag. Then, looking at the person in front of him, he gritted his teeth and demanded, you poisoned me? Hearing this, Lang Zhonglai panicked and replied, I didn't know they would come. I just wanted to make you faint so we could escape. At that moment, the horse galloped forward. Dust flew everywhere. He couldn't help but pull out a dagger and stab it deep into the horse, causing it to go wild. At the same time, a volley of arrows flew towards him. One arrow pierced his shoulder, blood spurting out as his body staggered. Lang Zhonglai, startled, held a small bottle in her hand. She stammered, tranquility balm, and quickly pushed it into his chest. A strange insect tattoo was partially visible on his chest. Immediately afterward, the man in black collapsed to the ground. She quickly clung tightly to the neck of the crazed horse and galloped forward, leaving the chaos behind. The masked man looked at the unconscious person in his arms, his eyes wide with an indescribable emotion. Suddenly, Lang Zhonglai sat up with a gasp, crying out ag. Her eyes were still filled with fear. At that moment, Tao Fun, beside her, anxiously sat down and said, Miss, you're finally awake. Hoo-hoo, thank goodness. Thank goodness. If anything had happened to you, what would this servant do? How would I face the old master? Seeing the person in front of her sobbing, she calmly reassured her, look, I'm all right. Your miss is a blessed life and won't die so easily. Hearing these words, Tao Fun quickly spat and exclaimed, purry. Don't say such things. Miss, spit it out. Suddenly, the door was flung open. Hatuet rushed in from outside. Panicked. Zhonglai, you're awake. Seeing the newcomer, Tao Fun quickly stood up and bowed. Hatuet, however, ignored her, and rushed to the bedside, anxiously asking, "Are you all right? Are you hurt anywhere?" Seeing her panic, Lang Jianglai slowly reassured her, "I'm fine, don't worry. By the way, do you know who saved me that day?" Hearing this, Ha Tuet blurted out, "The person who saved you was—" She hesitated for a moment, then smiled and replied, "Xianlei." Hearing this, Lang Jiangli's head was filled with question marks. She immediately asked, "I mean the person who pulled me back with a whip. Who was that?" Ha Tuet once again affirmed, "It was Xianlei. Although I wasn't there, thinking about it, in the Hanlang cavalry, the one with the deepest martial arts skills is Xianlei." While the two were engaged in this question and answer session, Tao Fen diligently tidied the bed behind them. Seeing Ha Tuet's certainty, Lang Jianglai hesitantly suggested, "Can I meet Commander Xianlei?" Ha Tuet smiled at Lang Jianglai and replied, "He of course. I'll call him." After a while, Xianlei arrived in her room. He quickly knelt on one knee and saluted. Subordinate Xianlei greets Princess Consort. Lang Jianglai, now changed into fresh clothes, sat facing him and quickly said, "No need for formalities. I just wanted to meet Commander Xianlei to thank him for saving my life." He sat opposite her and quickly replied, "Your Highness, you are too kind. This is Xianlei's duty." But at this moment, the person before him silently observed his face. Then, inwardly, she affirmed, "These eyes, it's not him. It really wasn't him. But who was that person? Why did they hide themselves?" She covered her mouth with her hand, lost in thought. If I could see those eyes again, I would definitely recognize him. Nighttime at Zuaishi. A luxurious boat, draped in mist, drifted along the water, its lights glowing brightly. Inside a cabin, two figures sat. A man was removing his shirt, revealing a wound to the person behind him, Si Kong Nam Kien. The woman, dressed in vibrant red, was Yun Ning. She applied medicine to his wound while scolding him. "I told you this was like fishing in troubled waters, yet you still went. Look at this wound." The man interrupted her, "Sister Yun Ning, this time I had no choice. I owed him a favor. Finishing this, I feel much relieved." Hearing this, her eyes filled with distress. As she bandaged his wound, she replied, "Even though you owed him a favor, he won't know what you did. This favor, as far as he's concerned, is still owed." Si Kong Nam Kien slowly said, "I, Si Kong Nam Kien, have always acted with a clear conscience." Yin Ning responded angrily, "Yes, but look at your state now. How can you face your father? We thought you would attend the third prince's wedding on the 9th day of the 9th month. But in this condition," she placed the remaining bandage roll onto a tray. Sensing her worry, he slowly redressed. "I'll return home once I've recovered a bit. Gohan Khan's wedding isn't that important anyway." She couldn't help but ask then, "Nam Kien, what should I tell them?" Si Kong Nam Kien looked at her and instructed, "Tell them Duo Ran said he doesn't kill defenseless women. That woman has some ability to protect herself and is innocent of any wrongdoing. There's no need to create more karma. Just reassure them." Yin Ning replied, "Understood." She turned and left, leaving him alone in the cabin, illuminated by the flickering lamplight. He picked up the vial Lang Jianglai had slipped into his hand before he fell from his horse. His eyes held a mixture of contempt and anger. "You dared to poison me? Don't think that just because you're becoming the third prince's consort, I can't do anything to you." He clenched the vial in his hand. On the 9th day of the 9th month, at the gates of the prince's mansion, the bridal procession moved grandly through the streets. The people of Huin Tan stopped to watch the spectacle. Inside the palanquin, Lang Jianglai held a fan, thinking to herself, "Why hasn't anything happened yet? Maybe he doesn't want to marry me after all." Just as this thought crossed her mind, an arrow tied with a red ribbon struck the roof of the palanquin. The onlookers cheered excitedly. Amazing! At the mansion gates, Gahan Khan stood, dressed in elegant groom's attire, his eyes covered by a white silk cloth. His calm voice rang out, "Princess Consort, please disembark." Inside, Lang Jianglai was startled, speechless. After a moment, Lang Jianglai stepped out, flower petals falling around her, creating a romantic scene. A large yet slender hand suddenly extended towards her. Gahan Khan, seated in a wheelchair, spoke softly. "Come, my princess consort." No one knew that behind the white veil covering his eyes was a deep gaze. Dam Chiu intently watched the person opposite him. Lang Jianglai hesitated before placing her hand on the waiting hand. A vague thought suddenly echoed in her mind. His hand is so cold. The two held hands and proceeded into the prince's mansion, amidst the curious gazes of the commoners standing on both sides of the road, observing. At the same time, at the back gate of the prince's mansion, a much simpler palanquin quietly entered. Two figures, one in front and one behind, slowly followed the palanquin. The woman walking behind was Jiu Thursday Ham. She looked at the back gate with indignation and said, "Based on what does Lang Jianglai get to wear the wedding dress and enter through the main gate, while I have to enter from here? My father is a general of the imperial court, yet I can only be a concubine." The servant girl walking beside her hurriedly replied, "Miss Jiu, the old master once said if you married the sixth prince or the ninth prince, you could become the official wife. But you chose the third prince." Hearing the other mention something she didn't want to hear, Jiu Thursday Ham immediately turned around and angrily shouted, "What do you understand? Since I was young, I've admired Han Kongij. Now, of the emperor's younger brothers, only the third, sixth, and ninth princes remain. Even if they have abilities, they can't stir up any trouble." The person behind her was startled and about to add something, but before she could speak, a mama from within the prince's mansion came out and bowed, interrupting, "Concubine, concubine, time is running short. Please come inside." As soon as she finished speaking, Jiu Thursday Ham and her servant quickly entered the prince's mansion, her face still clearly marked with unwillingness. Night fell. In the bustling atmosphere of the wedding day, the full moon hung high, its gentle light shining down. The room was decorated in vibrant red. A servant girl knelt before the two and slowly spoke, inviting the prince and princess consort to drink the conjugal cup of wine together. Hearing this, Lang Jianglai and the person sitting beside her each reached out and picked up a wine cup, preparing to drink together. The person opposite her had already finished drinking, but Ngu Han Khan still hesitated, his eyes seeming to look at her with uncertainty. Seeing this action, her eyes widened with surprise and confusion. The servant girls standing nearby were also stunned. One of them unconsciously said, "Your Highness." Before she could finish, he immediately tilted his head back and drained the cup. Seeing this, the head servant girl immediately bowed and continued in a loud voice, "Two families united in harmony, 3 cheers for beauty, 5 generations of prosperity, a virtuous wind blows, 6 rites completed, 7 sages gathered, creating 8 tones, singing the song of 9 harmonies, 10 perfections complete." As soon as she finished speaking, both of them simultaneously placed their wine cups on the tray. A subordinate came out to congratulate them, bowing respectfully and saying, "Congratulations to the third prince. May your marriage be blissful, your vows eternal, your love deep, and your bond strong. May you soon have a son and cherish each other for 100 years. After speaking, he and the others quickly withdrew, not forgetting to close the door behind them. Now alone in the room, the atmosphere suddenly became quiet, tinged with a faint awkwardness. Lang Jianglai couldn't help but fan herself, sighing dramatically. Finally, it's over. I'm exhausted. Suddenly remembering something, she rummaged in her sleeve, muttering, "I almost forgot. Here, drink this quickly." She handed the person beside her a small bottle. The other person remained silent for a long moment. Suddenly, Lang Jianglai slapped her forehead as if she had just remembered something. I forgot. Your Highness's eyes. Your Highness's eyes can't see." Yet, the other person calmly tilted his head forward, his lips lightly touching the bottle in her hand. Then, he pushed her hand away and slowly asked, "What is this?" Hearing the question, she calmly replied, "Didn't you just notice something was wrong with the wine? This is the antidote. Don't worry, drink it. Don't let him refuse." Lang Jianglai quickly poured all the medicine in the bottle into Gahan Khan's mouth, chattering nonstop. "Although I couldn't immediately distinguish the taste in the wine, I can confirm the poison wasn't potent. I understand your situation somewhat. Now that I'm the princess consort, I'll naturally be on your side. I'll do my best in everything." Gahan Khan listened and replied in a low voice, "No need." Lang Jianglai stared blankly at him, momentarily speechless. He then continued calmly, "I'm used to this. I appreciate your kindness. You just need to take good care of yourself. When the storm passes, if you want to leave, I'll naturally arrange for someone to escort you out of here." Upon hearing this, she casually propped her chin on her hand, glanced at him, and replied nonchalantly, "All right, I was meddling, but I don't have anywhere to go right now. I'll impose on the third prince for a while. Suddenly, several figures appeared outside, announcing, "Your Highness, the food you ordered from the kitchen is ready." They then entered and placed the sumptuous dishes on the table. Seeing the full spread of delicious food, Lang Jianglai clasped her hands, her eyes shining with surprise and admiration. The man beside her remained impassive. Lang Jianglai looked at him, patted his shoulder lightly, and said with a smile, "Your Highness, you truly are a good person." Gahan Khan then urged, "Eat quickly. It won't be as good when it gets cold." Hearing this, she smiled and placed the chopsticks in his hand. She herself looked excitedly at each dish on the table and quickly began to eat. The man beside her also ate slowly. After swallowing, his Adam's apple bobbed slightly, causing her to stare, mesmerized. She thought to herself, "This man is really handsome. It's so unfair." Thinking this, she shook her head as if to compose herself. No, I absolutely cannot succumb to his looks." Lang Jianglai then slowly put down her chopsticks and gently turned to the person beside her, hesitantly asking, "It's time to rest now, right?" As soon as she finished speaking, dramatic images flooded her mind, her rogue self stripping the handsome man before her eyes full of lust, while Nguhan Khan fearfully clutched himself. She then covered her face in embarrassment, thinking, well, it seems this practical application has its difficulties. The sound of the wheelchair echoed through the quiet room, bringing Lang Jianglai back to reality. She stared blankly at his back as he slowly wheeled away from the table and asked softly, Your Highness, can you tell which direction you're going?" He pushed his chair towards the bed and replied calmly, "I've been blind for 4 years. I've long memorized the layout of this room. Now, come and help me take off my clothes." Hearing this, Lang Jianglai stood stunned for a moment before stammering in response. Unable to resist, she approached him and began to help him remove his outer robe. As she undressed him, she couldn't help but exclaim inwardly, "Ah, he even has muscles." A mischievous glint flashed in her eyes, and she seized the opportunity to touch his waist, thinking, "This feels amazing." The man before her couldn't help but ask, "Have you touched enough?" She instinctively replied, "No," but before she could finish, she froze, speechless. Then she awkwardly withdrew her hand, her face flushed, and stammered, "No, I meant the belt isn't undone yet." Ha ha ha. She quickly hung Nguhan Khan's outer robe on the rack and turned to look at him. After slowly finishing her questions, she asked what would happen next. Hearing her question, he responded indifferently. Lang Jianglai then moved closer and gently removed his headpiece. However, in doing so, her hair accidentally caught on it. This caused him to tilt his head slightly back, questioning whether she had done it on purpose. Lang Jianglai scratched her head sheepishly and replied that she hadn't done this before and it wouldn't happen again, assuring him not to worry. Her gaze then drifted towards a bed, then to the man standing beside her. A man can't get into bed himself. She started to formulate a plan in her head. How should I put this? In my past life, I was a woman who studied judo. I don't believe I can't lift a small frame like yours. Thinking this, she rolled up her sleeves, her face full of confidence. Quickly, Lang Jianglai placed a hand on his shoulder. His eyes widened slightly in surprise, looking at her through the silk veil. Before he could react, she lifted him up. Nguhan Khan, startled, immediately asked her what she was doing. She, still carrying him, cheerfully replied, "Time for bed." With that, she hurried towards the bed and unceremoniously tossed him onto it. He now lay on his back, his face flushed, staring at her in bewilderment, wondering what she was doing. Meanwhile, Lang Jianglai proudly thought to herself, "My title isn't just for show. Lifting a person is no problem." Then, the man on the bed hesitantly spoke. "My wife is truly a heroine among women." Hearing the praise, she bashfully covered her face with her sleeve, muttering, "Oh no, I'm supposed to be a delicate, helpless woman." After a moment, Lang Jianglai stammered, "Yes, your highness is too kind. So do I get a reward?" Hearing this, Nguhan Khan looked surprised and asked, "A reward? What kind of reward do you want?" She covered her face, mortified, scolding herself internally. "Oh my God, what did I just say? I should bite my tongue off." Nguhan Khan, hearing no further sound, wondered, why is she quiet? She was so bold just a moment ago. He turned his head towards her and asked, "Have you not thought of one yet, my wife?" She stammered, yes. Internally wanted to pull her hair out, thinking, I've really dug myself into a hole, and it's always filled with difficult problems. Hearing this, Nguhan Khan simply said, "Then tell me when you've thought of one. It's getting late." Seeing this, she put on a gentle smile and replied, "Yes." The candles in the room burned brightly, illuminating Lang Jiang Li's small figure as she slowly walked towards the bed. She had changed her clothes, her cheeks slightly flushed with embarrassment. She scratched her cheek lightly and asked, "Do you have a habit of sleeping naked?" He simply closed his eyes and replied, "No." Hearing this, she sat down beside him and calmly continued, "Then I won't take anything off." Suddenly, she leaned closer, her eyes scrutinizing his face, and asked, "What about the cloth on your face?" Nguyen Khan responded indifferently, "Don't touch it." Her hand, which was about to reach for the cloth, stopped mid-air. A heavy silence fell over the room, broken only by their soft breathing. Lang Jiang stared at the person beneath her with a puzzled look, smoothing her hair and thinking, with such a handsome face, his eyes must be even more beautiful. I really want to see them. Suddenly, he asked, "Have you seen enough?" She straightened up, cleared her throat, and stammered, You. How did you know?" He calmly replied to her question. Her breath was very close. Hearing the reason for her discovery, her hand tightened slightly on the blanket. She slowly said, "All right, I won't look anymore." Having stopped looking, she quickly retreated to her side of the bed. Turning to look at the person beside her, Lang Jiang thought to herself, "Such a handsome face, yet he covers it. What a waste." Just as she lay down, the thought, "Oh, it's a bit cramped," popped into her head. She looked shyly at Nguyen Khan and softly said, "Could you move your hips over a little?" But she stopped mid-sentence. Her words were met with an unusually quiet stillness. Suddenly, she remembered something and inwardly berated herself. "Oh, my brain. This person can't move half his body, so how can he move over?" Abruptly, she grabbed the sleeve of the person next to her. The unexpected action startled him. Though frightened, she didn't say a word and simply pushed him like she was pushing a ball. After a brief struggle, he lay flat on the bed, looking dazed. The mastermind behind it all calmly sighed. "Ah, much more comfortable." A bewildered voice spoke. "Madam, you truly are a heroine among women." But the room fell strangely silent again. Nguyen Khan slowly turned his head to look at the person beside him, only to find her fast asleep. He couldn't help but wonder, does she really trust me that much? Outside, the full moon shone brightly in the night sky. Meanwhile, inside the room, Lang Jiang in her domineering sleeping posture, stretched her legs, waved her arms, and then turned to hug the person next to her tightly, as if it were a natural habit. She slept soundly until morning. Dao Fan entered from outside, carrying a basin of water. She approached the sleeping figure huddled under the blankets and gently called, "Miss, it's not early anymore. Time to wake up." A sleepy voice replied, "5 more minutes." Hearing this, Dao Fan said in a panicked tone, "If you sleep any longer, you'll be laughed at." Lang Jiang finally rubbed her eyes and reached out to the side, but the space was already empty. Confused, she asked, "Where's the prince?" Dao Fan, while adjusting the bed curtains, replied, "The prince has returned to Yuhong Courtyard. Yesterday, I heard from the servants in the mansion that the prince lives in Yuhong Courtyard and hasn't returned to the mansion in a year." Hearing this, Lang Jiang sat up abruptly, inwardly complaining, "How heartless." Just then, a familiar, clear voice rang out from outside the door. "You're finally awake. I've been waiting for you." Hatuet stood at the door, arms crossed, watching Lang Jiang wash her face. She continued, "Before the prince left, he said not to disturb you and to wait for you to wake up naturally. I didn't expect you to sleep for so long. Could it be that last night?" She suddenly covered her mouth with a knowing smile. Dao Fan, hearing this, exclaimed in alarm, "Commander Ha!" But Lang Jiang calmly wiping her face, teased, "You're truly improper. Come and sit." Hatuet replied with a slightly melancholic tone, "I won't sit. After relaying the prince's message, I must return to him. The prince told me to stay and tell you 3 things. 1. The Empress Dowager is not in the palace, so you don't need to enter the palace for now. 2. All matters within the mansion are now entrusted to you. He hopes there won't be any trouble. 3. If you have any requests, you could decide on your own. There's no need to ask him." Dao Fan gently combed Lang Jiang hair while she held a teacup, listening attentively to every word. After hearing everything Nguyen Khan had instructed, she calmly remarked, "I have a feeling these weren't the prince's original words." Just as she finished speaking, she slowly took a sip of water. Hearing this, she helplessly asked how she knew. Seeing the other person's surprise, the person opposite simply replied calmly, "Well, I did spend a night with him. I'm guessing his initial words were." She hesitated for a moment, Lang Jianglai then imitated his indifferent demeanor and tone. Decide everything yourself. Don't bother me. Having said that, she raised her head to look at the person opposite her and asked, was it like that? After witnessing her every expression and word, that voice and acting made Ha Tuet flustered and speechless. Then, she slowly looked at herself in the mirror, continuing, actually, I'm free today. I was planning to see what kind of poison he was afflicted with back then. At this rate, we won't catch the culprit. At this moment, Dao Fan was meticulously applying makeup. Suddenly, she spoke up with a suggestion. Why don't you take me to that Yohong courtyard? I'll go see him. Just ask a few questions, and then we'll leave. What do you think? After hearing those words, Ha Tuet casually waved her hand and replied to Zhang Lai, I don't think it's necessary. At this moment, the person opposite her curiously asked why. Ha Tuet lowered her head slightly and slowly said, it's been many years. Every time there's hope, it turns into disappointment. This matter has become a psychological burden for him now. It's best not to touch upon it. But then she added, but you're the princess consort now. Your position is different from ours. There are some things subordinates can't do, but you can. She looked directly into the other person's bewildered eyes. But after finishing those suggestions, she gave a mysterious smile. At this moment, a servant girl outside was standing and announcing, Princess Consort, there's a young master who calls himself Hondike and claims to be an old acquaintance of yours. He is currently requesting an audience. Hearing those words, Lang Jianglai unconsciously turned her head, looking towards the vague figure outside the door. A strange sense of unease arose in her heart. An old acquaintance? Who is it? Ha Tuet, who was standing opposite her, also heard this and softly said, then I'll excuse myself and return to the prince's side. If there's anything you need, you can send someone to Yuhong courtyard to find me. She then raised her hand in a gesture like someone giving a thumbs up to the person opposite her, her eyes gentle yet firm, and softly said, hold on to the prince's hand. You can do it. Inside the room, a hand gently touched a delicate flower petal. A man was standing there, silently appreciating the exquisite beauty of the flower placed on the table. The air was still and quiet. At the same time, she quietly entered from behind. The person who called himself Hondike also turned around at that moment, his eyes looking directly at the newcomer without hesitation, and said, Miss Lang, have you forgotten your old flame? You came to Huintan and didn't even come to find me. Her eyes widened, and the face before her stunned her into silence. After a moment, Lang Jianglai slowly sat down on a chair and calmly said, young lady, next time you pretend to be a man, remember to wear a high-collared shirt. Don't expose your hands like that. The person opposite her, upon hearing this, touched her ear in surprise, then looked at her with sparkling eyes and said, whoa, you're amazing. Only then did Lang Jianglai raise her head and glance at the other person, slowly speaking as if making a guess. It's nothing special. I also know you're the prince's younger sister. Is that right, princess? The young woman slumped down, her eyes sparkling as she looked at the princess consort before her and excitedly exclaimed, sister-in-law, are you a celestial being? You know everything. You're as amazing as third brother. At this moment, the person opposite her propped her chin on her hand, her eyes analytical as she carefully observed Nguhan Khan's younger sister. You and your third brother look very much alike, but your personalities are quite different. Hearing those words, the young woman couldn't help but sigh. Third brother wasn't always as cold as he is now. It's all because of, well, it's best not to bring up unpleasant things. Anyway, that's not why I'm here. Lang Jianglai calmly poured a cup of tea and handed it to the other person. In a gentle voice, she asked, so, Princess Hondike graces me with her presence. What brings you here? The person opposite her accepted the teacup, took a slow sip, and replied, third sister-in-law, you have no idea. Ever since third brother was seriously injured 4 years ago, despite appearances, he's been constantly wary of hidden dangers. So, I came to sound you out, sister-in-law. Hearing these words, Lang Jianglai couldn't help but clasp her cheeks with both hands, feigning adorableness. So, did I pass your test? At this, the other person couldn't help but shower her with praise. Third sister-in-law, you truly are someone I admire. You don't despise my third brother. You're a true bodhisattva. Speaking of which, she suddenly covered her face with both hands, her eyes darkening with sadness as she continued. But I feel so sorry for the general. Third brother has become like this, and there are still many unpleasant matters in the inner court. Mainly, there's a little girl in the palace. Hearing this, Lang Jianglai exclaimed in surprise, a little girl? Seeing her confusion, Hondike slowly explained, Yao. Yao is the daughter of one of third brother's former concubines. But the child's mother passed away early, so she was sent to be raised in the Liu household. However, Lady Liu's health wasn't good, so when the child turned 3, she was brought into the palace to live with the Empress Dowager. Hearing this, Lang Jiang-Li's expression became slightly bewildered. She thought to herself, I haven't even settled in, and I'm already a stepmother? This life really won't be peaceful. But the person in front of her didn't let her react further, continuing excitedly. Although father and daughter have never met and their affection is faint, she is third brother's only blood relative. He still cares deeply for this daughter. So, third sister-in-law, you must do your best, she said, giving a thumbs up. You must win over my brother. After hearing these words, Lang Jiang-Li lowered her head, seething inwardly. Don't think that getting married is the end of the story. Discord in marriage, especially with someone powerful, is still discord. Then, she abruptly turned and called out loudly, Dao Fan, bring all my books here. I'm going into seclusion to study. Hearing this, Dao Fan hurriedly brought the books, attending to Lang Jiang-Li as she read. From daybreak until nightfall, Dao Fan dozed off, but Lang Jiang-Li remained engrossed in her books, as if completely absorbed. It reached the point where mushrooms began to sprout on her body. Dao Fan, sitting beside her, picked the mushrooms while saying worriedly, Miss, you're covered in mushrooms. You can make soup with them. Suddenly, Lang Jiang-Li turned to Dao Fan and suggested, let's go out for a stroll. Hearing this, Dao Fan exclaimed in alarm. Leaving the estate involves a lot of rules. We have to report it, and then we'll have a lot of soldiers following us. Hearing this, Lang Jiang-Li mischievously raised her hand, but we just won't tell them. Now, on the bustling streets, Lang Jiang-Li, disguised as a man, walked cheerfully ahead, with Dao Fan trailing behind, constantly exclaiming inwardly, we actually snuck out. Miss, you're so amazing. Lang Jiang-Li raised her head confidently and said, this isn't sneaking out. Everyone has their little tricks. Hearing this, Dao Fan became excited and asked, so miss, where are we going? Lang Jiang-Li pondered for a moment, then replied, since we're already out, all right, let's go to Yuhuang Courtyard and take a look. If we can meet the third prince, it's best to seize the opportunity to act. As she finished speaking, a determined glint flashed in her eyes. Hearing this, Dao Fan couldn't help but ask softly, Miss, what do you want to do with the third prince? At this moment, Lang Jiang-Li realized she had inadvertently revealed her plans. She quickly covered her mouth, muttering, how could I be so careless, and blurt everything out. Then, she turned to Dao Fan, putting a finger to her lips in a warning gesture. Of course, it's important. Don't ask about things you shouldn't know. Knowing too much isn't good. Hearing this, she covered her mouth with both hands and replied, understood. At this time, at Yuhuang Courtyard, Lang Jiang-Li suddenly popped her head over the high wall. It turned out she was sneaking in. Upon seeing the scene inside, she couldn't help but exclaim, hee hee, I didn't realize Ngahan Khan knew how to enjoy himself. At the same time, Dao Fan, behind her, was trembling, using all her strength to support the person above. She hurriedly said, Miss, whether the prince knows how to enjoy himself or not, this servant doesn't know. But this servant does want to know why we have to climb the wall. Lang Jiang-Li didn't rush to answer, quickly climbing over. After landing safely, she dusted off her hands and slowly replied, you don't understand. Right now, we're not familiar with this place. We still have to sneak out of the prince's mansion. Therefore, we must scout the situation first before making any plans. Behind her, Dao Fan was also struggling to climb over. After both of them had safely entered the courtyard, they proceeded inside together, observing their surroundings as they walked. A moment later, Lang Jiang-Li couldn't help but wonder, but it's strange. Why isn't there anyone patrolling Yuhuang Courtyard? Come on, let's go inside and take a look. As she said this, her face lit up with excitement, her eyes gleaming with curiosity. At the same time, in the flower garden on the other side, Ngahan Khan was leisurely enjoying his tea. Suddenly, a graceful figure approached. Do you, Thursday? Ham looked at the person in front of her, her voice coquettishly ringing out, Han Khan Gij, why don't you live in the prince's mansion? Why live in such a remote place? Hammer wants to see you but can't. At the same time, in a hidden corner, Lang Jiang-Li and Dao Fan were peeking, observing everything that was happening. He slowly raised his teacup, his voice cold and indifferent enough. You can go back now. Don't come again next time. Hearing these words, she couldn't help but retort, Han Khan Gij, I'm your concubine now. I don't care about your current state. As long as you let me stay by your side, I can endure any hardship. I can tolerate any wrongdoing. But the person opposite her only took a sip of tea and replied indifferently, "There's no future for us. In a few days, I'll find a way to send you away." The subordinate standing behind him, hearing this, frowned. But Thursday Ham, unfazed, continued to chatter as if she hadn't heard anything. Han Kong Gij, anyway, I already know the location of Yuhuang Courtyard. I'll visit you often from now on. His subordinate, seeing this, hurriedly stepped forward. Gohan Khan, after hearing this, frowned and shouted sternly, "Without my permission, if you dare take another step into Yuhuang Courtyard, I can't guarantee nothing will happen." Hearing these heartless words, she was frightened, covering her mouth and stammering you. Then she turned and ran away in tears. Her maid, following behind, seeing this, also panicked and chased after her. "Miss!" In the corner, two figures continued to observe the situation. Lang Jianglai thought to herself, he really doesn't know how to be gentle with women. At this moment, his gaze swept over and suddenly became sharp, his voice cold and filled with killing intent. "Not just her, you too." Hearing these words, she was startled and surprised, quickly looking forward in a daze. At that moment, a sword flew swiftly towards her. A wary voice rang out, "Who's there?" She gasped, her eyes wide, as if she couldn't believe what had just happened. At the same time, Dao Fan, behind her, cried out in alarm, "Miss." It took a moment for her to regain her composure. She stammered, "It's me. We." Xia Shui, standing opposite, also exclaimed in surprise, "Damn it, how is it you?" She didn't reply, only embarrassedly pushed the sword away from her neck. After the situation calmed down, she turned to the person not far away and said with a smile, "Hello, Your Highness." Her maid had fainted at some point. At this moment, she clasped her hands together, looking at the person in front of her excitedly, and asked, "Unexpected, isn't it? Surprised? Aren't you amazed?" The person opposite only then slowly replied, "So it's Princess Consort Lang. I thought someone else had come to Yuhuang Courtyard to cause trouble." After speaking, he moved closer to Lang Jiangli's ear and whispered, "You snuck out, didn't you?" Hearing the question, she didn't try to hide it and nodded, replying, "That's right." Then, straightening her back, she coughed slightly. Behind her, Xia Shui, surprised, helped Daofan up, muttering, "Goodness, why did she faint?" Guhan Khan slowly raised his head and asked the person in front of him, "What are you doing here?" But Lang Jianglai didn't rush to answer. Instead, she countered, "First, you should tell me how you discovered me." Seeing that she had no intention of explaining, he ordered Thursday Fong, "Take her out." The person called Thursday Fong sighed in dissatisfaction upon hearing this, thinking to himself, "Why do I have to do these awkward things? Offending people like this." Having thought this, he still had to approach her and politely say, "Princess Consort, please excuse me." "Everyone, please." But before he could finish, he was interrupted by the other party. "Hold on. Just let me say something." And without giving the person in front of her time to react, Lang Jianglai quickly sat down next to him and hurriedly said, "It's just that I felt so bored in the prince's mansion, so I went out for a stroll." But Ngahan Khan only coldly replied, "If that's the case, Steward Mu will make arrangements for you." She leaned against the table and replied in a languid voice, "But Steward Mu has too many rules. He even wants to send so many people to follow me. How can I feel like I'm strolling like that?" He couldn't help but question, if you were strolling, why stroll to Yuhuang Courtyard? Hearing this, she asked back innocently, "If I'm strolling, why can't I stroll to Yuhuang Courtyard?" Hearing these words, he frowned and called out, "Thursday Fong." Seeing the situation becoming tense, she hurriedly waved her hands and explained, No, I came to visit you. It's been a month since our last meeting, and I haven't seen you again. For better or worse, we are husband and wife in name. Hondyke also told me to come and check on your health. If you hadn't returned, then I had to." But before she could finish, he interrupted, "No need." Hearing this, she exclaimed in frustration, "Ah." Only then did Ngahan Khan turn and continue, "I said no need." Then he looked at the person beside him and added, "You don't need to listen, Hondyke. I don't need you to visit me for my health. My matters don't concern you. You just need to stay obediently in the prince's mansion and not cause trouble." At this moment, Lang Jianglai looked at the person next to her, thinking, "Blocking you when you're free." Then she burst into anger, slammed the table, and stood up abruptly, retorting, "Fine, no visit, no visit. That saves me a lot of trouble. You can pray for your own well-being." After saying that, she stormed off in a huff. Daofan, seeing this, quickly broke free from Xia Shui's grasp and exclaimed in panic, "Miss, "Wait for me." But after a few steps, she suddenly stopped, her voice ringing out coldly, "Hey." Hearing this, the person behind her asked in confusion, "What?" Lang Jianglai turned around, crossed her arms, and looked at the person in front of her, her eyes cold but full of arrogant disdain, and said, "I wasn't calling you. You can continue being your cold and aloof prince." Her words caused Thursday Fong to quickly lower his head, his body trembling as he tried to suppress his laughter. He wanted to laugh but didn't dare. As for Nguhan Khan, he frowned in frustration but couldn't say anything. Suddenly, her voice rang out again. "Hey, you there!" The call startled the young man who had been eavesdropping, causing him to jerk his head up in surprise. His eyes widened in confusion as he pointed at himself and hesitantly asked me. He was unaware of a sharp gaze directed at him, cold and piercing. At that moment, Thursday Fong quickly approached him. Looking at the young man, she calmly inquired, "Do you have any silver on you?" Taken aback by the question, he exclaimed in bewilderment. She then scratched her head in exasperation and continued, "I left in such a hurry that I forgot to bring money. Could you lend me some? I'll have someone return it to you when I get back." Understanding the situation, the young man stammered, "Your Highness, what are you saying? I have a little bit of meager silver on me. I hope you don't mind." He quickly took out his money and offered it to her. Accepting the pouch, Lang Jianglai smiled with satisfaction and praised him, truly a well-mannered young man. "I won't take advantage of your kindness." She then turned to the person behind her and instructed, "Dao Fan, bring out the sweet osmanthus cakes you made." Dao Fan quickly replied, "Yes, miss," and promptly retrieved the cakes, handing them to Thursday Fong. Lang Jianglai, standing to the side, couldn't help but chatter, "These are sweet osmanthus cakes. Dao Fan made them herself. They're one of a kind in all of Xuanqing. You should try them." Suddenly remembering something, she put her hands on her hips and declared, "Oh, and one more thing. You don't need to follow me, and don't send anyone to follow me either." Hearing this, Xia Shui, who was standing beside her, looked at her companion with a bewildered expression, thinking to herself, "Isn't His Highness angry? He's so patient with Jianglai." After she left, Thursday Fong approached Nguhan Khan and bowed, saying, "Your Highness, these are the sweet osmanthus cakes Her Highness asked me to bring you." He quickly opened the package, continuing, "Her Highness made them herself. There's only one serving in all of Xuanqing, just for you to try. I'll leave them here for you. Please be sure to eat them." As he finished speaking, he exchanged a knowing glance with Xia Shui, their eyes gleaming with amusement. They silently applauded Thursday Fong's effortless fabrication. "That kid has a bright future." Meanwhile, Lang Jianglai, having just stepped outside, encountered a palanquin. The woman inside was Lu Shi. Seeing her, Lang Jianglai couldn't help but stare in bewilderment, thinking, "Lu Shi? What's she doing here? Does this place really need to be this bustling?" After some time, strolling through the streets, Lang Jianglai emerged from a fragrant shop with a satisfied expression, holding a bright red, candied hawthorn skewer. Dao Fan, carrying her purchases, trailed behind and asked, "Why did you buy so much from the first madam's mother's shop? Aren't we giving them too much business?" Lang Jianglai simply replied, "Who says it's all for them? Come on, let's get something to eat." After walking a few steps, her gaze fixed on the Zi Shixiang establishment. Watching the people at the entrance constantly beckoning customers, she said, "Come on, let me show you the world." Dao Fan cried out in alarm, "Ah, miss, I think this is the place we just went into." The interior of Zi Shixiang was magnificent, with dim lighting and the gentle melody of a stringed instrument echoing throughout. Men sat everywhere, their laughter and conversation filling the room. Suddenly, a gaze fell upon her. Sikong Nanjian observed her for a moment, a flicker of amusement in his eyes. A woman disguised as a man? The third princess consort is quite playful. He slowly sipped his tea. At the same time, a waiter quickly approached and led the way, saying, "Sir, please come this way." As Lang Jianglai passed Sikong Nanjian's table, he leaned forward, murmuring to himself, "What a unique fragrance." Unable to resist, he looked at her retreating figure and called out, "Sir, your sachet is quite extraordinary. Would you mind if I had a sniff?" Hearing this, Lang Jianglai turned around in surprise to face him. Observing his features, she was surprised, thinking, Why does this man seem so familiar? She then slowly handed the sachet to him, saying, "No problem. I don't know how I should address you, good sir." He accepted the sachet and slowly replied, "Si Kong Nanjian." "And you, good sir?" Hearing this, she calmly replied with 2 words, "Jiangli." After smelling it for a moment, he couldn't help but raise his head, furrow his brows, and look at the person in front of him questioningly. This sachet of the 3rd princess consorts is certainly not easy to acquire. Upon hearing those words, her eyes widened in surprise. But before she could say anything, Si Kong Nanjian continued, "Shall we go upstairs and talk for a bit?" Upstairs, the decorative flowers were vibrant under the soft light. Dao Fan stood respectfully with her head bowed, while Lang Jiangli couldn't help but ask the man before her, "How did you know who I am?" He calmly replied, "I know you are a woman disguised as a man. Moreover, you know this fragrance is called Jiangli. Finally, you live in Xian City. If I couldn't deduce your identity based on these points, how could I be Si Kong Nanjian of Xian City?" He finished speaking, his eyes gleaming with pride as he looked at her. Having heard his analysis, her face fell. "Does that mean my disguise technique is that bad?" Seeing her dejected expression, he lifted his teacup and continued, "Your technique is good. Ordinary people wouldn't recognize it. But I, Si Kong Nanjian, am not an ordinary person." Hearing this, she angrily took a large bite of the pastry, chewing as she thought, "Damn it." At this moment, Si Kong Nanjian slightly lowered his head and said, "3rd princess consort, you are an intelligent person. I like to get straight to the point. This Zi Shixiang is my family's business. I want to invite you, princess consort, to be the perfumer and create the new Air Xiang fragrance here." Hearing his reason, she looked at him calmly, still chewing her pastry, and asked, "Oh, is that so? So, can you give it to me for free today?" His face contorted, stiffening, but he still forced himself to reply, "Of course, 3rd princess consort. You certainly drive a hard bargain." Night gradually fell, enveloping the entirety of Xian City. Only then did Lang Jiangli and Dao Fan return to the prince's mansion. On the way, Dao Fan, unable to contain her curiosity, carried the various purchases and quietly asked, "Miss, do you want to cooperate with Si Kong Nanjian?" Hearing this, the person walking in front simply replied, her gaze fixed straight ahead. "According to him, regardless of what kind of fragrance I create, he'll accept it based on the order. This way, I can establish a stable business and earn money." After hearing her explanation, Dao Fan stepped closer and quietly asked, "Then why didn't you agree right away, miss?" Lang Jiangli tilted her head slightly to look at the person beside her and softly replied, "Business matters can't be rushed. I have to consider it carefully. I can't set a price before I'm prepared." Having finished speaking, the 2 of them arrived at the small courtyard where she lived. As soon as they stepped into the courtyard, a figure suddenly darted past and quickly ran out of Lang Jiangli's courtyard. Dao Fan, upon seeing the figure's back, recognized her and asked in surprise, "Miss, wasn't that concubine Yao's maid, Ningji? What was she doing here in the middle of the night?" Ignoring the questions behind her, Lang Jiangli walked forward and gently opened the door to her room. Upon entering, she immediately smelled a strange fragrance lingering in the air. She frowned, covering her nose with her hand, and quickly ordered, "Open all the windows." Hearing this, Dao Fan, who was about to close the door, was startled and bewildered. Lang Jiangli hurriedly walked over and opened the lid of the incense burner on the table. Inside, only a few remnants of the incense remained, their shape and color indistinct. Looking at the remnants, she pondered for a moment and then softly said, "It seems someone in the prince's mansion wants to harm me." Hearing this, Dao Fan couldn't help but speak up indignantly. "Ningji snuck away a while ago. Concubine, Yao must have ordered her to do it." Hearing these words, Lang Jiangli thought for a moment before calmly saying, "Poisoning through incense smoke. This method seems rather clumsy." At the same time, in Yu Huang courtyard, Ngahan Khan sat alone by the window, his gaze quietly looking out into the night. His low voice echoed as she returned. Hearing this, Thursday Fong, standing behind him, sighed softly. The prince appeared cold on the outside, but in truth he secretly cared, even secretly following and protecting the princess consort, escorting her all the way back to the mansion gates. Thinking this, he bowed slightly and replied, "Your Highness, The princess consort has returned. Gahan Khan, holding a small flag, placed it on the map in front of him. As soon as he heard the reply, he questioned, why did she return so late? The person behind him, his face slightly downcast, respectfully replied, because Her Highness the Princess Consort had just returned. This servant escorted her to the gate, watched her enter her room, and then returned. Hearing this, he frowned and couldn't help but ask further, so late? Where did she go? What did she do? Thursday Fong straightened his back, coughed lightly, and slowly reported, after leaving Yu Huang courtyard, the princess consort went into the city. First, she went to the Chu family Xiang Street, then strolled along the street all afternoon. At dusk, when she returned, he hesitated. Seeing this, Gahan Khan looked at him questioningly. Knowing he couldn't hide it any longer, Thursday Fong lowered his head and slowly said, she went to Zishi Xiang. Hearing the answer, Gahan Khan froze, turning back, his eyes darkening with suspicion to Zishi Xiang. Where is that? The person behind him immediately explained, a pleasure house. Hearing this, only the two words pleasure house remained in his mind. His hand unconsciously tightened, crushing the small flag in his hand. After a moment, he calmed down and continued, she stayed there until now. Thursday Fong immediately replied, yes. Hearing the confirmation, Gahan Khan lowered his head, his voice hoarse. All right, I understand. You may leave. The next morning, in Yao Shu Ham's small courtyard, she was practicing martial arts with 2 long spears. Her movements were decisive and powerful, each move demonstrating focus without any distraction. Suddenly, Lang Jiangli appeared, holding small twigs in her hands, excitedly shouting, amazing. I'm cheering for you. Behind her, Dao Fan watched, sighing inwardly, thinking, be serious, be serious. After finishing her practice, Yao Shu Ham, holding a bowl of water, drank while coldly asking the person opposite her, if you have something to say, just say it directly. After you're done, I'll continue practicing. The person opposite her didn't beat around the bush, directly asking, where's your maid, Ningji? Hearing this, Yao Shuham frowned, her voice questioning, why are you looking for her? But Lang Jiangli only gave a friendly smile. Her calm demeanor unconsciously made the other person feel a little intimidated. After a moment, Yao Shuham, while wiping her spear, slowly replied, I asked her to go out and buy some things. She's not here right now. Lang Jiangli also got straight to the point. Why did she come to my place yesterday? Hearing this, Yao Shu Ham, while putting her weapon back on the rack, replied, my father sent someone with some gifts. One part was for Brother Han Khan, and the other part was for you. I asked her to bring them over, but she didn't see you. If it's just that, is there anything else? Lang Jiangli, hearing this, simply replied calmly, all right, then wait for Ning Ji to return. Tell her to come find me. After saying that, she gathered her things and left with her servant. Yao Shuham watched their retreating figures, full of unspoken questions. A moment later, anger suddenly erupted. She flung the tray of items, shouting, you say fine, then fine. Do I have to listen to you? At this moment, in the quiet space, a figure slowly added ingredients to a mortar and pestle, grinding them finely. The rhythmic pounding resonated, blending with the air, carrying a faint fragrance of medicinal herbs. A maid stood behind, hesitantly watching the person before her, then cautiously spoke. Miss, Ningji has clearly returned, but we've called her 5 times, 7 turns, and she still refuses to come. Hearing this, Lang Jiangli slowly raised her head, her voice calm but laced with coldness, that if we don't have the ability to summon her, then we'll have to use other methods. Go find Steward Mu. Tell him about the incense burner and let him handle it. That night, Steward Mu and the guards quickly brought Ningji in. Yao Shuam followed behind them. Upon entering, he bowed to her respectfully. Princess Consort, I've brought her. The person behind him, her eyes filled with resentment, stared coldly at the person standing inside. Ningji, prostrate on the floor, trembled, unable to bear it any longer. She looked up and saw the person before her, then moved forward to question her. Her voice trembling but resolute, Princess Consort, may I ask what wrong my maid has committed against you? Despite these words, the other woman's expression remained unchanged, only replying coldly, if she hasn't offended me, why did you deliberately prevent her from coming? Dao Fan, standing behind Lang Jiangli, carefully adjusted her clothes. The other woman stubbornly spoke again, her voice ringing out, she is my maid. After her clothes were adjusted, Lang Jiangli slowly refuted, her voice calm and firm. Incorrect. She is currently a maid of the third prince's mansion. Hearing these words, the other woman was so angry she was speechless, only managing to choke out you. But the person beside her no longer paid attention to her, only slowly approaching the person kneeling on the ground. Her eyes sharp, she asked in a raised voice, "Where did you go today? What did you do?" Hearing the question, Ningji's face was filled with fear, her lips trembling as she stammered, I. Her eyes glanced at Yao Shu Ham, causing the latter to frown angrily and shout, "What are you looking at me for? Say what you did." Hearing this, Ningji lowered her head and slowly replied, "Mrs. Face powder was used up, so she told me to go buy some." Lang Zhongli continued to question, "So where did you buy the face powder?" Ningji's hesitant voice rang out, not daring to look directly. I already gave it to Mississippi." Lang Zhongli turned to Steward Mu and instructed, "Send someone to retrieve it." He bowed in response, "Yes." The woman beside her couldn't hold back any longer, stepping closer with narrowed eyes and a raised voice. "Lang Zhongli, what are you trying to do?" Lang Zhongli calmly looked at the other woman's grimacing face and replied indifferently, "Yesterday, you sent Ningji to my room. Afterward, my incense burner was tampered with. Tell me, shouldn't I investigate this thoroughly?" As she spoke, she stepped closer, causing the other woman to involuntarily step back, her face paling with fright. The kneeling woman hurriedly looked up and denied, "Princess consort, I know nothing about this. Yesterday, Miss told me to bring something over. I went to the entrance but didn't see anyone, so I returned." Hearing her maid's words, Yao Shuham turned and questioned, "You're accusing her of tampering just because she came to your room?" Seeing the other woman still ignoring her words, she frowned and continued in a louder voice, "Ningji has been with me since she was young. She can't read. The only incense she recognizes is the face powder I use." At that moment, Steward Mu returned, holding a tray in his hands. He stepped before Lang Zhongli and respectfully said, "Princess consort, the incense has been brought." After opening the incense powder, she observed it for a moment. Unable to contain her curiosity, she furrowed her brows slightly. It was one Su Xiang, a fragrance not easily appreciated. She wondered why everyone seemed to like it. Her gaze fell upon the kneeling figure, her voice deepening. "Currently, you are the most suspicious. Try to remember, in Ling Yinju, did you see anyone else?" As she spoke, she returned the item to its original place, her sharp eyes seeming to pierce through the person before her. "Or did you notice anything suspicious? Or was it truly you who did this? If so, tell me who is behind you. Doing so might spare your life." The person facing her only lowered their head, their expression a mixture of confusion and fear. The person behind, upon hearing her words, angrily shouted, "Lang Zhongli, what do you mean by throwing dirty water on people?" Lang Zhongli simply folded her arms and calmly replied, "That's exactly what I mean. Yao Mui Mei, no need to get agitated. It could also be your maid, but the intention might be someone else's. Calm down, calm down." Suddenly, Ningji raised her head and spoke hurriedly, her voice filled with panic. "Princess consort, this servant remembers. When this servant entered Ling Yinju, I saw someone hurriedly leaving your room. At the time, this servant thought your highness was present, so there would be people coming and going. I didn't expect the room to be empty." Hearing these words, Yao Shuham spoke up as if finding a glimmer of hope. "Right, that's exactly it. It must be that person." Lang Zhongli looked over at Ningji and sternly questioned, "Who was this person? Do you have any proof?" Ningji immediately replied, "This servant was standing far away, so I couldn't see clearly. I only have a vague impression of their figure." Afterwards, they hurriedly left from the outer door. "Princess consort, this servant swears that everything I've said is true." After listening to these words, Lang Zhongli sighed softly and instructed, "Well, it's late today. Steward Mu, assign someone to watch Ning Ji carefully. We'll continue this tomorrow." The next morning, lying in bed, she couldn't stop thinking. She had originally thought Ning Ji and Yao Shuham were the two most suspicious individuals, but now it seemed uncertain. If what Ning Ji said was true, then this unidentified person was the one behind this incident. But who was this person? While she was lost in thought, Dao Fan suddenly rushed in from outside, her voice filled with panic. "Miss, something's happened. Ning Ji is dead." Hearing this, Lang Zhongli immediately sat up, her eyes blazing with anger as she gritted her teeth. "Damn it, they've been silenced." Lang Zhongli and Dao Fan hurried to Yao Shuham's place. Upon arriving, they encountered Steward Mu and the imperial physician examining Ning Ji's body. She immediately rushed forward anxiously, asking Steward Mu urgently what happened. When did she die? Upon seeing her, he hastily bowed and reported, "This morning, when the maid brought her breakfast, she was already unresponsive." Hearing this, Lang Zhongli felt a sudden unease, thinking to herself how she felt everything that was happening was within someone's calculations, as if she were being held in the palm of their hand. Suddenly, Yao Shuham appeared, rushing towards them, screaming as she ran, her eyes red and her face full of rage. "Lang Zhongli, you vicious woman! I can't believe you're so cruel as to kill Ning Ji." Pointing directly at Lang Zhongli's face, she yelled, "Lang Zhongli, even if you're the third princess consort, you cannot disregard the law and act as you please. I will go to my father. This matter will not end here." Faced with the fierce accusations and the finger pointed at her face, Lang Zhongli was not intimidated. She immediately grabbed Yao Shuham's hand, her voice cold and filled with anger. "Oh, you have no brain?" The situation escalated to a breaking point. Suddenly, two figures appeared in the distance, walking towards them. The person trailing behind was Wang Ruyan. The woman in front was Chu Xiuyuan, whom Lang Zhongli recognized immediately. Wang Ruyan hurried forward, her face etched with worry. Lang Zhongli simply gave her a cold glance and curtly asked, "Why are you here?" Hearing this, Wang Ruyan slowly replied, "I heard something happened here. It seems an important witness has died. I happened to be talking with Sister Chu in a nearby room, so I brought her along to take a look." At this moment, Yao Shuham erupted in another fit of rage, her voice escalating into a shriek. "What do you mean, an important witness has died? My Ngung Qi was clearly murdered by this vicious woman. Madam Wang, don't get too close to her just because she's the third prince's wife. You might end up dead without knowing why." Hearing these blatant slanders, Lang Zhongli's face hardened. She snapped, her irritation undisguised. "Madam Yao, you've overstepped your bounds. I will discuss this matter with the third prince myself. His Highness will decide the appropriate punishment." Just then, the imperial physician slowly pulled the white cloth down from Ngung Qi's face. Lang Zhongli immediately turned and urgently asked how. The physician bowed respectfully and replied, "Reporting to your highnesses, death was caused by poisoning." Lang Zhongli pressed further, "What kind of poison?" But the physician only lowered his head, his voice helpless. "Forgive me, your highness, my abilities are limited. I can only initially determine that it's an absorptive poison." Hearing this, Lang Zhongli silently pondered. An absorptive poison, that meant traces might still remain in the room. Thinking this, she immediately turned to enter, completely unaware of the gaze that was secretly following her. Lang Zhongli pushed open the door to Ngung Qi's room and stepped inside. A familiar sensation immediately washed over her. This smell that it's so strong that incense. So the poison is an incense poison, she thought to herself. It was highly likely that the person who administered the poison this time was the same one who had put the poisoned incense in her own room. Chu Xiuyuan quickly followed her inside. However, Lang Zhongli paid no attention to her presence, completely absorbed in her chaotic thoughts. The poisoner was undoubtedly someone within the mansion, but whose subordinate were they? And what was their motive? Chu Xiuyuan's eyes darted around, silently observing Lang Zhongli's every move. After they both left the room, Yao Shuham immediately approached Chu Xiuyuan and asked urgently, "Sister Chu, do you know what kind of poison this is?" Chu Xiuyuan raised her fan to cover her mouth, a mysterious look in her eyes. "This scent, it's somewhat familiar." Yao Shuham gasped, "Familiar?" At this, Chu Xiuyuan continued slowly, glancing at Lang Zhongli's retreating figure. "I remember when I went to Lang Yin Pavilion to pay my respects to the third princess consort. Someone commented on the scent of the incense she was blending." Hearing this, Yao Shuham whirled around and aggressively confronted Lang Zhongl. "Oh, you have anything to say for yourself? Sister Chu has spoken. Are you still going to deny that you're the vicious murderer who killed Ngung Qi?" Lang Zhongli calmly turned, thinking to herself, "It's true, I did make some incense pouches before, and some of the scents are quite similar to this one." Her gaze fixed on Chu Xiuyuan, suspicion rising in her heart. Were Chu Xiaoyuan's words unintentional, or had they been planned all along? She looked at Chu Xiaoyuan, her eyes filled with amusement and mockery. Madam Chu, your sense of smell is truly remarkable. The scent in the room was so strong, yet you were still able to distinguish the individual fragrances. If that's the case, I like to ask, how can you be certain that the scent was blended by me? Such an accusation cannot be made lightly. Chu Xiaoyuan's eyes widened in surprise. Not giving her a chance to react, Lang Jiangli turned and warned Yao Shu-ham, Madam Yao, I've reminded you repeatedly. You must be careful with your words and actions. You still don't understand my suffering. Within Geng Qi's death, I'm the one who has lost the most. I want to find out who is behind this. Why would I harm my own witness? Such an illogical story. Yet it startled you. This isn't easy. Chu Xiaoyuan hurriedly backed away a few steps, avoiding getting caught in the dispute. Yao Shu-ham, reprimanded in front of everyone, angrily shouted, who knows what your intentions are? After all, you haven't been fond of me since you entered the manor. Perhaps you wanted, but before she could finish, a familiar, deep, and warm voice interrupted. Enough. Nguhan Khan, escorted by Thursday Fong and Xia Shui, arrived. Upon seeing him, Yao Shu-ham immediately ran over, her voice pleading, Brother Han Khan, the Lang princess consort is vicious. I can't believe she had someone kill my close servant girl. Brother, you must seek justice for Shu-ham. He responded coldly, isn't it just a maid who died? Should this prince's consort trade her life for a maid's? Hearing those words, Lang Jiangli stared at him, her face filled with resentment. She thought to herself, Nguhan Khan, you truly are an idiotic teammate. She imagined herself brutally tormenting him. You think you're some domineering CEO? Saying that is as good as admitting I killed her. What am I supposed to do now? I can't let the princess consort die for a maid. Her gaze grew colder and fiercer, making him wonder what was happening. Nguhan Khan's wheelchair slowly rolled away from the main hall, each rotation seeming to widen the distance between him and everyone else. Chu Xiaoyuan, seeing this, cried out in alarm, Your Highness, what I said just now was merely speculation. She hurried after him, her eyes panicked as she offered futile explanations. Looking at his back, her voice trembled. He simply replied, I know. The person behind him slowly approached, her eyes filled with suspicion and discontent. Are you going to let this go? Just not intervene. She was about to add fuel to the fire when she hesitated, inwardly complaining. I've been in the manor for years, but I've only met him a few times. He's always so cold, never giving me a chance to get close. Suddenly, Nguhan Khan interrupted in a level voice. All right, let's return. Thursday Fong quickly pushed him away. Lang Jiangli turned and walked in the opposite direction, not allowing anyone to ask further questions. He coughed softly. Xia Shui, understanding immediately, turned back and called out, Princess Consort, His Highness is waiting for you. Why aren't you coming with him? Startled, she looked back, thinking I really don't want to associate with that idiotic teammate at all. Then, before Chu Xiaoyuan's surprised gaze, she smiled brightly and ran after him, cheerfully calling out, Coming, coming. Ignoring Yao Shu-ham's astonished look, she quickly returned. After returning to her room, she sat properly at the table, carefully grinding the incense. The fragrance drifted through the air. Glancing at the man sitting nearby, she asked directly, Why are you back here at this time? He sat not far away, his gaze sweeping over her indifferently before slowly saying, You all caused such a commotion. If I didn't come back, wouldn't the prince's mansion's roof be about to collapse? Hearing this, the image of Madame Chu and Madame Yao flashed through her mind, and her eyes immediately lit up. So, next time I'll cause even more commotion so they won't have to wait for him, like a wife waiting for her husband's return. She looked at Nguhan Khan's silent back, fuming inwardly. If he doesn't want to talk to me properly, then I don't need to talk to him properly either. After that, the sound of the pestle hitting the mortar rang out rhythmically, like the beat of her anger. Suddenly, the person opposite spoke, but hesitated, unable to finish the sentence. Lang Jiangli looked over, puzzled, and asked what? Hearing her question, he slowly replied, but before he could finish, Dao Fan interrupted as she passed by, Your Highness, Princess Consort, young Master Tu Kong requests an audience. Hearing this, she exclaimed in surprise, Young Master Tu Kong. Then she remembered everything, silently blaming herself. It's all because of that incident that messed up my mind. I forgot about that guy, Tu Kong Nam Kien. At this moment, he turned to look at her, his voice ice cold as he questioned, Which young Master Tu Kong? The atmosphere now had a faint sour scent, a bitterness that didn't need smelling to be tasted. Receiving the question, she just silently stood up, brushed off her clothes, and replied curtly, "Hey, don't worry about which young master Tukong. This is my business." After saying that, she used her ox-like strength to hoist him from his wheelchair onto her shoulder, her voice enthusiastic. "Come on, let's take a nap. I'll be back in a bit. Be good. I'll make you osmanthus cake." She spoke as she walked towards the bed, ignoring the bewildered man on her shoulder, who had no idea what was happening. At this time, Ngahan Khan was lying on the bed, his eyes dazed and full of suspicion. Why was I suddenly carried to bed? Why do I suddenly have to take a nap? After putting him in place, she slowly walked out and ran into Xia Shui. As soon as she saw her, Xia Shui asked, "Jiangli, why are you out here? Where's His Highness?" Hearing the question, Lang Jiangli simply replied cheerfully, "It's nap time, so I put him to bed." After hearing these words, the person behind her was just as bewildered as her master. Then she watched Lang Jiangli's retreating figure, unable to help but wonder silently. But His Highness doesn't have the habit of taking naps here. She went to the main hall. Upon seeing the other person, she couldn't help but ask, "Hey, why are you in here?" He saw her coming and slowly replied, "I know this prince's mansion better than you. Why wouldn't I be able to come in?" Lang Jiangli didn't say anything, calmly walking over, her eyes narrowed slightly as if assessing him. The other person couldn't help but tease, "I think you look better in men's clothing than women's." Suddenly, she looked at the man beside her, her eyes probing. "What's with this guy?" Steward Mo slowly introduced young Master Tukong. This is the young master of the Prime Minister's estate. He's considered a longtime friend of His Highness. He used to come to the mansion often to visit His Highness. After listening, her face remained blank as she replied indifferently, "So you're a high-ranking official disguised as a rich second generation." Then, in her eyes, Tukong Namkien transformed into a black sheep. Her eyes lit up. She thought to herself, if this opportunity presented itself, not taking advantage and gaining some benefit would be unbecoming of her. Immediately, she quickly shook the other person's hand, ignoring his bewildered expression. Meanwhile, Lang Jiangli was inwardly celebrating. This was the first pot of gold for her Lang Jiangli empire. At that moment, Ngahan Khan was obediently tucked under the covers when he suddenly felt a heavy weight on his head, as if a green hat had been placed there. He couldn't help but frown, thinking, "Why can't I sleep? What's this heavy thing?" Back in the main hall, the two sat facing each other, neither speaking a word. The silence stretched taut like a drawn string until Lang Jiangli broke it. "Brother, we each keep a copy of this contract. If either of us violates the agreement, there will be compensation." As she spoke, she handed the paper in her hand to the person opposite her. Sikong Nanjian took the paper and glanced over it before asking, "Why are you using the stage name Du Rua? What's the meaning of this?" Hearing his words, a helpless expression appeared on her face as she softly replied, "If I don't use a pseudonym, should I use my title as the third prince's wife while making incense for the women of a brothel? Do you want to ruin my livelihood?" She slowly stood up and walked towards the door, her voice continuing, "Also, I won't be selling the incense through Zhixiang. I'm preparing to open an incense shop in the city." The person behind her slowly tucked the agreement into his robes and then looked at her back, replying softly, "That's fine. Don't worry about the shop. I certainly won't use the prince's estate's resources. I'll use a private shop and gift it to you as a down payment for the incense." Hearing this, the image of a large shop appeared in her mind, and she couldn't help but be astonished. Good heavens, is this really someone from ancient times? Just casually gifting an entire building. Lang Jiangli excitedly turned back, extending her hand to signal her agreement to cooperate. After their discussion concluded, they walked out together. Suddenly, she turned to the person beside her and asked, "By the way, you're so knowledgeable about fragrances, why don't you make them for women? Could it be you research poisons?" Hearing this question, she suddenly remembered something and exclaimed, "What a coincidence. I knew someone named Dunin before. Although he was a bit talkative and foolish, he also said he researched fragrant poisons." The person beside her was startled, his expression suddenly tense, while she continued chattering, "If you two met, you'd probably have a lot to talk about." He frowned, muttering to himself, "Daring to call me talkative and foolish? She's the foolish one. Everyone in her third prince's mansion is foolish. Once this is over, I'll settle both new and old scores." Seeing him silent, she looked at him in confusion and asked, "Huh? Why aren't aren't you saying anything? He reluctantly turned his head to look at Lang Jiang and replied, I feel that this Dunin you speak of is also a talented individual. By the way, I heard something happened at the prince's mansion when I arrived. What was it? Sikong Nanjian quickly changed the subject. The person opposite him stiffened, coldly saying, why are you so gossipy, like some great husband? Mind your own business. It's getting late. I can't keep you for dinner. She quickly found an excuse to see him off, pushing him out before he could reply, muttering, go back and compile the paintings and the personalities of the young ladies. It would be even better if you could get them to tell you their favorite scents. But come back to me after you've finished compiling everything. Finding himself being ushered out, the person in front couldn't help but complain, how can you change your mind so quickly? By now, she had returned to Ling Yanju. The sun was gradually setting, and the golden light of dusk bathed the entire house. Suddenly, Dao Fan came running out, sobbing. As soon as she saw her, she burst into tears, burying her face in her hands. Miss, you're finally back, she cried as she accidentally bumped into the door. Following her inside, she continued to question her. His Highness rarely returns to the manor. Why did you disappear all afternoon? Wasn't that like gifting His Highness to Consort Liu? The woman facing her replied indifferently. The third prince has his own hands and feet, although his legs aren't functional. If you want to go somewhere, no one can stop him. Furthermore, in this entire third prince's manor, the only one who can be called his concubine is Consort Liu. Even a Yu Huang courtyard was given to her. She continued with a hint of carelessness. With such meticulous arrangements, how could I be so heartless as to intrude? Dao Fan could only remain silent, feeling wronged. Outside, the lanterns were lit, their light swaying gently on the window lattice. Lang Jiangli sat inside the room, lost in thought, a stone mortar and pestle in her hands. Suddenly, a figure entered. Seeing the person, she didn't show any surprise, but slowly asked, that fast? Xia Shui, upon hearing the question, confidently replied, do you not know who I am? In her hand, she carried a bag, which she placed on the table. Lang Jiangli spoke. Inside are the hair and clothes of the missing maid, along with a few miscellaneous items from her room. Hearing this, she couldn't help but exclaim, truly impressive. Your efficiency is remarkably high. Hearing the praise, Xia Shui couldn't help but feel smug. That's a given. As a subordinate of His Highness, how could I not be agile? Chun Lei focuses on martial arts training, and Thursday Fong is a bit rough around the edges. So, His Highness prefers to entrust me with both big and small matters. Lang Jiangli suddenly murmured thoughtfully, Chun Lei, Xia Shui, Thursday Fong. Don't you have a dong? As she spoke, she opened the bag. Suddenly, her eyes widened in surprise. The person opposite her now had a quiet face, filled with sadness. Realizing she had overstepped, Lang Jiangli covered her mouth, panicking inwardly. I messed up, I spoke out of turn. Xia Shui slowly said, there was originally a dong. He was Dong Song, the most outstanding among the four of us. But 7 years ago, her voice trailed off. Lang Jiangli quickly interrupted, I apologize. Xia Shui then slowly continued, there's nothing to apologize for. It's been a long time. It's just a little sad when I remember it. Our lives belong to His Highness. Any sacrifice for him is worthwhile. She closed her eyes momentarily. Seeing her expression, Lang Jiangli couldn't help but think to herself, years from now, when my friends in that world talk about me, will anyone be like Xia Shui? Suddenly, Xia Shui spoke again. Also, when I entered that maid's room in the Yunshu Pavilion, I encountered someone. Intrigued, Lang Jiangli asked who. Xia Shui quickly continued, I don't know, but I can confirm that their purpose was the same as mine. I was just one step ahead. I followed them for a while, but their concealment skills were too good, so I had to give up. Hearing the undesirable answer, Lang Jiangli's face darkened. She said sadly, even though we don't know who it is, it proves that there must be crucial evidence in Guangqi's room. Suddenly, she seemed to realize something and quickly looked at Xia Shui, asking, did they see who you were? Hearing her concern, Xia Shui replied confidently, for this kind of clandestine work, how could I be so careless as to reveal myself? What if I were discovered? Wouldn't that disgrace the prince? After hearing the answer, the woman opposite her continuously praised her. Very good. The next morning, the sky was clear with white clouds. The gentle sunlight shone down on the lake's surface, still as a mirror. Lang Jiangli sat opposite Sikong Nanjian in a small tea house. He slowly said, above are the portraits of the young ladies, and and below are their opinions. After you've reviewed them, you can begin the formulation. We can provide any ingredients you need. Hearing those words, the person before him looked surprised as she looked at what he had written in the notebook, silently admiring him. It must be said that Si Kong Nanjian was very thoughtful and meticulous, arranging everything completely, leaving no one to worry or be bothered. Suddenly, he spoke. In addition, as he spoke, he took out a folded piece of paper and offered it to her, slowly saying, "This is the shop I agreed to give you yesterday. Although it's not large, it's in a prime location. Consider it a gift." Lang Jiangli reached out to receive the deed, but the hand of the person in front of her trembled, unwilling to let go. While Lang Jiangli didn't understand what was happening, Si Kong Nanjian was in anguish, thinking, "My prime shop in the heart of the capital city." Realizing his hesitation, Lang Jiangli quickly snatched the deed, her eyes flashing. "That you're offering it," she said, her voice calmly comforting him. "Don't worry. Don't be heartbroken. I'm not the type to take advantage of someone and not do the work." After taking the deed, she suddenly remembered something important and asked, "When will your 100 Flowers Association in Z Shixiang be held?" Hearing the question, he didn't hesitate to reply, "Early next spring." Hearing that, she slowly continued, "No problem. I'll let you see the finished product first. If it's not suitable, we'll reformulate it." Lang Jiangli then made him link pinkies with her. "Whoever cheats is a dog." He was speechless for a moment before replying, "You're this old and still playing childish games?" After a moment of silence, she asked Si Kong Nanjian, "Yesterday, there was a murder in the prince's mansion. A scent lingered in the victim's room, somewhat similar to the scent I formulated, but also somewhat different." She then took out the bag Xia Shui had given her and spread its contents on the tea table. She continued slowly, "I want to ask you to distinguish whether this scent is the same as mine." Hearing this, he touched a fine white powder, then brought it to his nose, examining it meticulously. He then slowly picked up a piece of paper, reading as he spoke, "I can make some deductions, but this scent evaporates quite quickly and not much remains. I can only say I'll do my best." Lang Jiangli quickly said, "Then I'll have to rely on young Master Si Kong." He was carefully tying up Ngung Chi's belongings when Lang Jiangli spoke again. "Right? I still have something to ask you." Hearing that she had more questions, he slowly asked, "Why does Her Highness the Princess Consort have so many questions?" But, giving her face for helping him with this important matter, he added, "Go ahead and ask." Hearing this, she didn't hold back, asking, "Do you know anything about Ngohan Khan?" Hearing this, Si Kong Nanjian slowly replied, "I do. Although the late emperor had many sons, most were exiled. I grew up with him. At first, his personality wasn't very warm, but among friends, he was very good. After what happened, he became an iceberg. It's been a long time since we last drank together." He spoke as he slowly sorted through the items. Suddenly, Lang Jiangli interrupted, "You research fragrant poisons. Do you know what kind of poison he was afflicted with back then?" As soon as she finished speaking, the other person stared at her intently. "So, this is your purpose," they said. Then, in a leisurely tone, they began to tell a story. Speaking of which, back then, when His Highness was brought back from the border by the emperor, the most skilled physicians couldn't diagnose him. For him to become what he is today is all thanks to the efforts of the imperial physician of the Tianxiang Institute. At that time, my skills weren't refined enough, so I couldn't find a cause. These past few years, I've improved, but His Highness has been avoiding treatment, unwilling to let anyone examine him. It's been quite a headache for me." Hearing this, she asked in a daze, "So, if I want to research his unique poison, would just blood be enough?" At this, the other person looked at her and slowly explained, "His Highness's long-standing poison has been mixed with various other energies. After using detoxification methods, how could it be possible to research it just from blood?" Then, holding a red pill in their hand, they calmly continued, "Unless His Highness truthfully recounts what happened that year and agrees to be examined, then perhaps there might be some progress." Suddenly, Lang Jiangli stood up and boldly suggested, "Why don't we kidnap him?" Hearing these words, the other person stared blankly at her with a vacant expression, then couldn't help but cover their face and burst into laughter. Seeing their reaction, she asked helplessly, "Do you know any manners?" After a hearty laugh, Si Kong Nanjian finally spoke, "You're quite resourceful. A princess kidnapping her own husband? Are you bored and looking for something new to do?" After teasing her, he stood up, taking Ngung Chi's bag with him, and added, "All right, I'll be going now. Once you've finished preparing the incense, send someone to deliver it to me. Once I've thoroughly examined what you've given me, I'll come to the prince's mansion to find you." Hearing this, she rested her chin in her hand and muttered dejectedly, "No wonder he can only secretly run a brothel. Someone so timid couldn't accomplish anything great." Then she tossed her head, thinking confidently to herself that she wanted to treat illness and save people, a very noble act. Suddenly, a figure appeared outside. The sound of wheels against the floor caught her attention. Seeing Nguhan Khan enter, Lang Jiangli couldn't help but be surprised. "Speak of the devil," she thought, though this devil's legs aren't quite right, so he arrived a bit late. She stood up and stretched slightly. He suddenly stammered, "Why are you here too?" She replied casually, "Me? I was just strolling in the garden behind the mansion. The scenery there is quite beautiful. I had nothing to do, so I came to take a look." Hearing this, he slowly asked, "Were you alone?" At this, she feigned ignorance. "Yes, I was alone. Unless there was a second person." The person before her remained silent. After a moment, he said, "There's a banquet at the prince's mansion tonight." Hearing this information, she exclaimed in surprise, "A banquet at the prince's mansion?" But he didn't reply, simply turning and leaving. Seeing this, she asked, "Do you need me to escort you back?" But Nguhan Khan curtly replied, "No need." Seeing her kindness rejected, Lang Jiangli imagined him falling from his wheelchair and couldn't help but wonder Nguhan Khan left on his own. Surely he won't fall into some ditch, will he? Lang Jiangli returned to Ling Yinzhu. Her eyes then fell upon a dejected figure sitting slumped by the door. Surprised, she thought to herself, "What in the world?" Dao Fan was huddled there, muttering, "My princess doesn't have any competitive spirit or desire to vie for favor." At that moment, she hurriedly continued, "Your Highness, you asked this servant where she was going. I said that you were talking to a young master in the back garden of the manor. But before you could finish speaking, my face turned pale. I screamed, 'What?' Then my face contorted in pain as I clutched my chest, thinking, 'Stupid Nguhan Khan, you know I'm talking to Si Kong Nanjian, and you still ask if I'm alone? Damn it, I really wasn't on guard. Using troops can't defeat dirty tricks.' Seeing my unusual state, Dao Fan anxiously asked, 'Miss, what's wrong?' That evening, bright lanterns were hung, exquisite dishes were displayed, and people gathered together merrily. Other maids bustled back and forth, carrying dishes. At this time, Nguhan Khan sat in the center, slowly instructing everyone, 'This time, I have something to tell everyone. In a few days, the Empress Dowager will return. She values the royal family's reputation very much. Everyone, remember to prepare carefully.' Especially while he was speaking, Lang Jiangli's mind wandered to the ends of the earth. She pondered the origins of life, the mysteries of the universe, the philosophy of truth, the usual workings of her brain during formal gatherings. Suddenly, he called out, 'My princess consort.' Hearing herself being called, she snapped back to reality and looked over, then smiled and replied, 'Your Highness, rest assured, this consort will do her best.' But inwardly, she fumed, 'Who are you looking down on?' Hearing this, Nguhan Khan slowly continued, 'Continue.' At the same time, Consort Liu, sitting next to him, quickly placed a piece of food into his bowl. The other women immediately swarmed towards him like bees to a hive. 'Your Highness, try this dish. Eating too much meat isn't good. Have some more vegetables. These grapes are very sweet.' As they jostled, they didn't forget to push her aside. Her face was full of bewilderment. Then she focused on eating her own portion, whispering fearfully, terrifying, 'Are they trying to devour Nguhan Khan alive?' Then she stood up to leave, not forgetting to say, 'I'm finished eating.' Suddenly, a voice from behind made her freeze. 'Princess Consort, where are you going?' Hearing the question, she turned back awkwardly, stammering, I'm. But before she could finish, he interrupted, 'Come to Ling Yin Pavilion. We'll go back together.' As soon as he finished speaking, her eyes darted towards those sitting nearby. Meanwhile, Lang Jiangli was so shocked she was bewildered, thinking if looks could kill, I'd be riddled with holes like a honeycomb by these ladies. 'Nguhan Khan, please spare me.' But she still quickly stepped forward, urging him towards Ling Yin Pavilion. During this time, her mind was filled with images of him and Consort Liu being intimate. She couldn't help but wonder, he's so happy with Consort Liu, why come to Ling Yin Pavilion to seek boredom? But the person in front of her suddenly sneezed. Hearing the sound, she covered her mouth in surprise, thinking, sure enough, cursing someone in your mind is effective. Such a cold person was actually sneezed at by my curses. A beautiful man is truly a beautiful man. Even his sneeze sounds so pleasant. But when she realized she was being too infatuated, she slapped herself without hesitation and scolded herself. How can I be so disrespectful and speak so carelessly about a beautiful man? I'm hopeless. Hearing the noise behind him, Ngahan Khan turned back to look at Lang Jiangli quizzically, asking what's wrong. Hearing this, she smiled helplessly and replied, there was a mosquito, so I swatted at it. Not sure if I killed it or not. After returning to the room, she looked at the figure in front of her and couldn't help but remove her headpiece as she spoke. Why didn't you go to Consort Lu's place today? He heard this and retorted, why should I be at her place? Seeing this, the person behind him exclaimed in surprise, oh, but your feelings for Consort Lu run so deep. Everyone in the manor knows the reason. Of course, there's no need for me to say it out loud. Realizing the other person had misunderstood, he hesitated for a moment before saying, it's not what you think. Hearing this, even though her hands were still helping him undress, she asked in bewilderment, Your Highness, your words really leave one at a loss for how to respond appropriately. I only asked a simple question. I wasn't thinking too much of it. So much has happened recently. My mind is preoccupied. How could I be thinking about such frivolous things? But at this moment, Ngahan Khan couldn't help but question, yet you have the mental capacity to think about private rendezvous with a man within the prince's manor. Hearing these words, she froze for a moment, then thought to herself, so he was waiting for me here. Seeing the silence of the person before him, he couldn't help but speak. Princess Consort, do you have anything you wish to explain? At this moment, Lang Jiangli held Ngahan Khan's outer robe, her eyes complex as she looked at the person before her. He also raised his head. Neither of them spoke, and the surrounding atmosphere became tense, as if a thin layer of ice had formed between them, thin, yet heavy and oppressive. The anger in her heart surged to 80%. She cursed inwardly, it's so annoying. I can't see his eyes, so I can't guess his thoughts. I have absolutely no idea what he's thinking. Immediately afterward, she threw the clothes at him, her voice sharp with agitation. This lady is innocent and doesn't fear gossip, Your Highness. You can think whatever you want, say whatever you want. He finally spoke, his tone low and cold like the water at the bottom of a frozen lake. From the day you married into this manor, you became Ngahan Khan's woman. As my woman, you must maintain your virtue. Hearing this, she couldn't hold back any longer. Bending down, she retorted in a strained voice, Ngahan Khan, I was forced to marry into your manor. Didn't anyone ask for my opinion? A sudden imperial decree decided my life. She slammed her hand on the armrest of the wheelchair, her eyes as cold as midwinter ice and snow, staring directly at the man before her. She continued, her voice full of resentment. Although I wasn't welcomed in the Lang family, at least it wasn't like the third prince's manor, a place where people are killed without a second thought. I met Han Di. She said she wanted me to help you, so I agreed. But who would have guessed you were this kind of person? As soon as she finished speaking, her heart filled with even more anger. Afterward, Lang Jiangli's body seemed to lose all its strength. She slumped to the floor, looking up at Ngahan Khan, her eyes filled with weariness and disappointment. Her voice softened, but a heavy weight lay beneath the surface. Being like this only makes those who truly care about you more tired than you are yourself. Perhaps you're already afraid, already resigned to your fate, and don't care anymore. But what about them? What do you want them to do? She took a deep breath, her eyes searching his impassive face for some flicker of emotion. Ngahan Khan, I entered the third prince's manor with the intention of leaving from the very beginning. This is something you tacitly acknowledged and agreed to, isn't it? If that's the case, I'm also paving my own way. Even if I find someone I like during this time, what does it have to do with you? As she spoke, a trace of sadness flickered in her eyes. She lowered her head, silently wiping away the tears at the corners of her eyes, asking herself, it's strange. Usually, I wouldn't even blink when saying these things, but why does it hurt so much to say them right in front of him? Pull yourself together. Stop being so miserable, she muttered while slapping her own face to regain her composure. Then she abruptly sat up, turned around, and yelled, Ngahan Khan, let me tell you, I'm not serving you anymore. You can find someone else. Whether you live or die doesn't affect me. Lang Jiangli stormed off, but after a few steps, she stopped. Turning back to look at him, she frowned and snapped. And another thing, do you know how much your aloofness, the way you act like you don't even hear when people are talking to you, makes people absolutely hate you? Having said that, she turned and resolutely walked away. But before she could take another step, he grabbed her hand. She immediately spun around, glaring at him. Gohan Khan finally spoke, his voice slow as if he had been waiting for this moment for a long time. "Where are you going?" Hearing that question, she became even angrier. "Didn't you understand what I just said? Do you want me to repeat it again?" His grip tightened, infuriating her to the point of explosion. "Gohan Khan, listen carefully this time. The main point of what I was trying to say is that I don't want to live with you anymore. Your unchanging, deathly demeanor makes people absolutely detest you." The eyes behind his silk blindfold narrowed. His voice, laced with anger, rose. "Repeat that." Provoked, Lang Jiangli shouted, "Fine. I'll say it again. I don't want to live with you anymore. Either you leave me, or I'll dump you. You decide." At that moment, the wheels of his wheelchair began to turn. He abruptly pulled her along. The sudden movement caught her off guard. Hey, what are you doing? Let go of me." He didn't say anything, instead accelerating as if racing against the turbulent emotions within him. Her head spun. "Gohan Khan, what are you doing?" He threw her onto the bed. It took her a moment to regain her senses. Her eyes widened in surprise. "What the?" She quickly sat up, immediately roaring with anger. "You grab someone's hand and play wheelchair races like that? Do the Emperor and the Empress Dowager know about this?" Hearing her question, Gohan Khan seriously replied, "No." Seeing his sincere expression and serious tone, Lang Jiangli was speechless. She felt like she was about to combust. "I'm going crazy. This guy, he actually answers so seriously during an argument." She sighed in exasperation. "There's really no way to talk to you." "Third Prince, Your Highness, please forgive me, all right?" He finally spoke, his voice like a cold wind sweeping across a mountain peak. "That I merely asked you one question. What were you and Sikong Nanjian doing in the back garden of the manor? Is that right?" Hearing this, her eyes widened. She blinked a few times as if trying to remember something, guilt filling her. It seemed to have started because of him. He asked what she was doing with another man. What exactly were his words? She was too agitated earlier to remember clearly, but something felt wrong. The more she thought, the lower her head drooped. Then she abruptly looked up and shouted angrily, "Damn it, are you saying I'm unvirtuous?" He simply replied, "Tonight, this is the 5th time you've spoken to me with such impudence." Hearing this, Lang Jiangli wasn't afraid. Instead, she moved closer to his face and said, "And what if I am? Everything I've said tonight has been impudent. What can you do about it?" And at this, after hearing her provocation, Gohan Khan didn't get angry. Instead, he calmly said, "Did I say you were wrong? Then tell me, what were you and Sikong Nanjian doing? How did you two meet?" Hearing his question, Lang Jiangli exclaimed in astonishment, "How did you know I met Sikong Nanjian?" The man before her slowly raised his hand. Calmly, he replied, "Housekeeper Moose said this is the 2nd time." Hearing his answer, she lowered her head slightly, pondering. As expected, there are no walls without cracks in this world. Then, she lifted her head to look at him, her voice lowered. "I'll explain it to you. Sikong Nanjian and I met the day I snuck out of the manor. This time, someone set me up, and I want to know who is behind it. I'm not skilled at finding the truth from the remaining clues, so naturally, I have to seek help from someone capable." As she spoke, she put on a pained expression, her eyes appearing misty. But after a few seconds, she winked, continuing, "Besides, I also wanted to ask him something related to you." Hearing this, Gohan Khan asked me. At this moment, Lang Jiangli spoke slowly, her tone carrying a hint of embarrassment. "Since you wouldn't let me examine you, I had to ask someone else. I didn't believe that no one else besides you would know. But unfortunately, he didn't know either, so..." Before she could ramble on, he coldly interrupted, "It's late. Go to sleep." Hearing this, she couldn't help but look up at him, dissatisfaction evident in her eyes. Then she got out of bed. "I'm not finished talking yet." "What do you mean, go to sleep? Besides, I've made it clear to you. I don't want to live with you anymore. Write me a divorce letter. I've already explained everything you wanted to know." But before she could finish, the man before her suddenly moved closer. His face suddenly magnified before her eyes, startling Lang Jiangli. Her face flushed crimson, and she hurriedly backed away. "Don't get so close." However, he quickly caught her as she tried to escape. She exclaimed, "You..." But before she could finish, a sudden kiss silenced her, leaving her so surprised her eyes went wide. After the kiss ended, her soul felt like it had left her body. Before she could regain her composure, Gohan Khan calmly said, "Your Highness' eloquence is truly remarkable. It's late, go to sleep. Tonight, I'll pretend nothing happened. But just as he finished speaking, slap, a bright red handprint appeared on his face. He furrowed his brow in confusion. Her face flushed with anger. She yelled, "You bastard. You say it didn't happen just because you wanted to? That was my first kiss." Silence hung heavy in the air. He slowly raised his hand to touch his cheek where she had slapped him. Lang Zhongli, now calmer, covered her face with one hand, embarrassed. "Oh my God, I didn't mean to hit you. It was just a natural bodily reaction." She clasped her hands together, seeking his forgiveness. Hearing no response, she peeked through her fingers. She saw his reddened face with a clear handprint. A strange sense of satisfaction welled up inside her. The bright red five-finger mark made her think, why do I feel this strange pleasure? Why does tormenting this beautiful man make me happy? Nguhan Khan simply turned his face away silently, his eyes downcast, saying nothing. Seeing this, she feigned panic, rushing forward and cupping his face in her hands. "Oh no, it's swelling up. Let me see." But he caught her hands and turned his head away, his voice cold. "It's late. Go to sleep." With that, he pushed off her hands, propelling himself from his wheelchair onto the bed in one swift motion, landing safely before her astonished gaze. He turned to look at her, raising both hands to indicate she was ready for bed. She gestured for him to help her undress. But after witnessing this series of actions, Nguhan Khan's face darkened. Only one thought remained in his mind. What in the world is she doing? Seeing that he still hadn't reacted, his voice rang out, calm but laced with a clear sadness. "My legs have been crippled for many years. If I've troubled you, I apologize." Hearing this, Lang Jiangli hesitantly asked, "So what is this posture of yours for?" Upon hearing her question, he couldn't help but retort sarcastically, "I thought you had a nimble mind. How did you become so dull-witted? Now, quickly undress this prince." Hearing him speak like this, her hands unconsciously clenched into fists. Inwardly, she fumed. This is infuriating. He's truly infuriating. All right. For the sake of my own dignity, I won't stoop to his level. Swallow your anger. Swallow your anger. Then, she slowly approached him, helping Nguhan Khan undress while muttering, "What do you mean, dull-witted? Do you even know how to talk to a woman? I call this unstable performance." The fluctuation of the graph is a bit large. Suddenly, the man before her gave a rare smile. The soft chuckle left her momentarily stunned. She looked up, asking with suspicion, Did you just laugh?" Receiving no answer to her question, his expression immediately returned to its usual coldness. He replied indifferently, "No, you heard wrong." Unconvinced, she pressed, "You laughed. Be honest." But he stubbornly denied it. "I said you heard wrong." Lang Zhongli wouldn't back down, retorting loudly, "No, I'm sure you laughed." After a brief argument, he ended it with a decisive, "It's late. Go to sleep." Outside, only the quiet night and the full moon kept them company. Now settled in bed, the atmosphere was incredibly peaceful. Suddenly, Lang Zhongli glanced at the person beside her and softly called out, Hey, are you asleep?" When he didn't respond, she thought to herself, "Oh, he really is asleep." She slowly sat up, her eyes carefully examining Nguhan Khan's face, where the red mark of her handprint still lingered on his cheek. She couldn't help but sigh inwardly, TSK, TSK, TSK. Even when slapped, he's still handsome. I clearly wasn't that forceful. Why is the mark so prominent? Unable to resist, she reached out and gently touched the mark, thinking to herself, he truly was born with wealth and nobility. His skin is even smoother than a woman's. The feeling of touching it isn't bad either. Her gaze lingered on his perfect eyebrows, then drifted to his full lips. These lips would be even more beautiful with a touch of color. And this nose, so perfect. After a string of silent compliments, the images of a little angel and a little devil suddenly appeared in her mind. The little angel quickly approached, patting her head gently and chiding, "You just argued with him, and now you can't control your lustful thoughts. Isn't that bad?" Lang Zhongli paused and thought. At the same time, the little devil quickly approached, saying mischievously, "Caring about him like this, being a little lustful, isn't a crime. It's just looking. What's there to be afraid of?" Her eyes flickered towards the little devil with a look of tacit agreement. Then she giggled smugly, He. In the quiet room, the figure sat staring at Nguhan Khan, her hands slowly reaching out, her heart constantly reassuring itself. "I'm just looking at his collarbone. Just a little peek. Really, just a little peek." As she reassured herself, her face flushed and she peeked with one eye. Mustering her courage, she gently pulled down his collar. Quickly, his collarbone and a portion of his chest were revealed. After looking, she shyly covered her face and quickly turned away, scolding herself that, "Oh my God, what am I doing?" At this moment, the little angel in her mind had been completely overpowered by the little devil. It tied up the angel, not forgetting to gag it for silence. Then, she turned back to him and excitedly said, "Well, I've looked. What's missing?" Hearing this, Lang Jiangli stealthily glanced over. Then, embarrassed, she covered her face again and thought, well, just a little more peek. I'll only look up to his shoulders. Suiting action to thought, she leaned closer and gently pulled his clothes down a bit more. Quickly, his collarbone and firm shoulders were completely revealed. The glimpse satisfied her, and she lifted her head. Suddenly, her nose started bleeding. It took a moment for her emotions to calm down. Looking at the sleeping man whom she was taking advantage of, she couldn't help but blame herself. She truly couldn't bear to go back to being cold and distant with him. She felt she was being excessively naughty. She truly didn't know when the next opportunity would arise to admire this beautiful man, unguarded and at such close proximity, would come again. She might as well take this opportunity to see everything she wanted to see. Thinking this, her hand slowly moved towards the silk cloth covering his face. Where her hand lightly touched the edge of the silk, she tensed, continuing her action. But immediately, her hand was firmly grasped by a strong force. Then, she was flipped over and pressed down onto the bed by the person beside her. The calm voice of the person above her slowly rang out, "Princess consort, you've seen plenty of things you shouldn't have. Shouldn't you stop now?" Realizing that her perverted actions had been discovered by the very person she was targeting, she panicked and stammered. You were awake? Your collarbone is truly beautiful." At the same time, Ngahan Khan's deep voice sounded, "It's late. Rest." Lang Jiangli, embarrassed, pulled the covers over her head, silently cursing herself. This is truly mortifying. Suddenly, the person beside her spoke again in a cold voice. The habit of casually pulling on other people's clothes isn't good. Hearing this, she gradually drifted off to sleep, still thinking, this guy isn't so boring after all. In her dream, she was sitting opposite him. The two of them slowly leaned in, about to kiss, when she suddenly woke up. Her wide eyes immediately met Nguhan Khan's magnified face. Then, a scream rang out, startling a bird perched on the roof, causing it to fly away in fright. Dao Fan, hearing the scream, hurriedly rushed over and was about to enter the room, worriedly asking, Miss, are you all right?" Seeing this, she immediately panicked and shouted, No, I'm fine. Don't come in." After saying that, she lowered her head and stammered to the person beside her, "I didn't do it on purpose. It was just a reflex." But at this moment, Ngahan Khan looked at her with an exasperated expression. His handsome face, besides the old handprint, now bore a new, bright red one on his other cheek. Then he silently turned his face away and slowly said, "It's fine. Help me up and change my clothes." Lang Jiangli quickly helped him change. She meticulously carried out each movement, and only after everything was done did she raise her head, look at Nguhan Khan calmly, and slowly ask, "Do you need a different blindfold? Today I chose a blue outfit for you. I remember you always were the same color." As she spoke, she reached out to touch the silk cloth, but he quickly dodged. At this point, the person in front of her suddenly stood up angrily and shouted, "Damn it, fine, no change." He then stormed out, slamming the door behind him. However, contrary to his previous anger, she wore a sly smile. He. The sound was as light as the wind, yet as mischievous as a cat stalking its prey. Then, she climbed up the door like a lizard clinging to glass, deliberately peeking through a tiny gap in the wooden door inside. The man, while removing the silk blindfold from his eyes, glanced at the faint shadow cast on the door. The person outside was so frustrated that tears welled up, thinking, humph, it's covered, I can't see anything. Then she turned and left, telling herself she wouldn't peek anymore. She strolled leisurely into the garden to pick flowers. A moment later, while picking flowers, she glanced at the back of the man facing her and asked curiously, "Do you have anything to do today?" He responded slowly, "No." Hearing this, Lang Jiangli sat down and ground the spices in a small stone mortar. While working, she said, "Then I'll start researching the fragrance blending method. If you need anything, just call me." Having said that, she quickly used beeswax to adjust the musk, then carefully added ambergris, cloves, and gold leaf. Each step was precise, as if she had done it hundreds of times. While working, She murmured the formula, royal incense, for parts. White aconite and mausiang, 2 parts each. Suddenly, a distinct and rather pathetic gurgling sound, urgle, rang out, attracting her attention. She quickly turned to look at the person beside her. Nguhan Khan slowly spoke, his voice slightly embarrassed, but still maintaining a calm demeanor. I'm hungry. Hearing this, she couldn't help but burst into laughter, her face falling onto the table. Ha 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 ha. Her laughter echoed throughout the room, both surprised and refreshing. Her laughter angered the person opposite her. His voice, laced with exasperation, rang out, Are you done laughing? I'm not a god. Being hungry is normal. Lang Jiangli's body shook with prolonged laughter. After a while, she calmed down and looked at him, smiling gently, and replied, Oh, don't be angry. Let's eat. Let's eat. At the dining table, Lang Jiangli suddenly remembered something important and leaned over to ask the person sitting next to her, Yesterday at the banquet, you said the Empress Dowager is about to return to the palace. What should I prepare? As soon as she finished speaking, she made up her mind. A daughter-in-law meeting her mother-in-law must make a good impression. Otherwise, something might go wrong. Noticing the worry evident in her eyes, Ngahan Khan calmly said, You don't need to prepare anything. The etiquette is already taken care of. Nothing major will happen. Hearing this, she asked softly, Does the Empress Dowager dislike anything? He frowned, trying to recall, and diligently told her, If she dislikes anything, it's women with heavy makeup and a frivolous demeanor, especially like you. You don't have any elegant manners like other people. Nguhan Khan spoke while casually mocking her, as if he were merely commenting on the weather. Lang Jiangli angrily pointed at herself and said loudly, Hey, I'm a free-spirited woman, but I know how to act. He muttered, as if talking to himself, Free-spirited woman. That term really suits you. Suddenly, a noise came from outside. She quickly stood up, not forgetting to look back and instruct the person behind her, Wait here a moment. I'll go out and see what's going on. Just a few minutes after leaving, she returned after draining the bowl of water on the table. She said with displeasure, Just now, Yao Shuhan was causing a commotion outside, wanting to see you. I originally wanted to talk to her properly and then send you out. As a result, it seems I've become her enemy. I won't let her get what she wants. He looked at her with a bewildered expression and asked, Send me out? What do you take me for? Having finished drinking the water, she sat back down comfortably, looked at the person beside her, and sighed, asking in return, Don't you want to see her? He responded without hesitation, No. Seeing this, Lang Jiangli couldn't help but wink and tease. So, Your Highness staying by my side means you want to see me? Gahan Khan, seeing this, couldn't help but question the person in front of him. Teasing me like this, do you find it amusing? At this moment, without any reservation, she pinched his cheek and replied nonchalantly, Very amusing. Doesn't Your Highness feel the same? Startled by her unexpected action, he stammered, his face still bearing the imprint of Lang Jiangli's fingers. Why you, Emil? At this time, the two were relaxing outside Ling Yanju. The dreamy atmosphere, with purple flowers dancing gently in the breeze, suddenly prompted Lang Jiangli to look at the person beside her and ask, Do you need to go inside and sleep for a bit? The other person responded indifferently, I'm not sleepy. Suddenly, a fat cat appeared, looking utterly lazy. Lang Jiangli looked at Nguhan Khan, smiling as she said, As they say, food, warmth, intimacy, and desire. Are you really not sleepy? Hearing this, the cat turned to look at the speaker with an incredulous expression. As for Nguhan Khan, the one being questioned, his eyes held 7 parts helplessness as he gritted his teeth and said, I don't have any desire for you. Hearing this, she looked at him even more suspiciously. If you wanted to, the question is, could you even do it, Nguhan Khan? You still haven't told me what the Empress Dowager likes. As she spoke, she propped her chin on her hand, one hand playing with the fat cat that was approaching. Hearing this, he simply said calmly, The things she likes can usually be found. You don't need to trouble yourself for her. Hearing this, Lang Jiangli couldn't help but poke the fat cat's belly while lecturing him on the theory of mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationships. Don't you know that if a mother-in-law doesn't like her daughter-in-law, the consequences can be very serious? She has so many daughters-in-law. Even if I can't be the best, I can't be seen as lacking in propriety. At this moment, Nguhan Khan couldn't help but turn his head in the other direction, his voice laced with sarcasm. That wasn't it you who arrogantly declared last night that you didn't want to live with me anymore? Hearing this, the hand playing with the kitten stopped. Then, she fixed a pensive gaze on the person beside her, Inwardly complaining, this guy looks gentle and refined, but unexpectedly, he holds grudges. However, she couldn't see the emotions hidden in the depths of his eyes, behind the silk veil. He slightly lifted the corner of his lips. Lang Jiang-li, meanwhile, lowered her head and said softly, "You're a grown man, yet you're bickering with a weak woman like me. Isn't that a bit beneath you?" Then, she suddenly turned to look at him, startling him. With scrutinizing eyes, she looked at him suspiciously. "Were you secretly laughing?" At this, Ngahan Khan quickly changed the subject. Why Imperial Mother doesn't like many things. Only 3 types. Things made of jade, health tonics, and various fragrances. Hearing this, she closed her eyes slightly in relaxation, murmuring, "Fragrances, huh? If that's the case, I already have a plan." She stood up, her face full of confidence. "You're quite useful, having a way to help me gain face." But she was quickly doused with cold water by the person beside her. "What good is face to you?" Hearing this question, Lang Jiang-li, without hesitation, turned and pinched his cheek again while replying, "To be admired, of course. Is that all right with you?" But she didn't see the murderous look in Guhan Khan's eyes. After a moment, he rubbed his cheek where she had just pinched him, utterly exasperated. Later in the study, she wrote down the things she needed while asking, "Oh, right, I heard you have a daughter. Yao Yao, is it?" At this moment, he sat opposite her and slowly replied, "That's right. Her name is Ngu Chungnak. Furthermore, this time, after returning with the Empress Dowager, she'll be staying in the manor." Her face stiffened as she saw the person in front of her remain silent. Ngahan Khan couldn't help but retort, "So, do you have a problem with that?" Lang Jiang-li propped her chin on her hand, looking away. "How would I dare object? This is her home. I might even get kicked out. Isn't it always about keeping an eye on the 2 of you?" she said, her voice trailing off as she glanced at him. Hearing this, Ngahan Khan lowered his head slightly. "Du hasn't lived with me since she was little. There's distance between us. In short, just get along with her. For now, you're a mother." Lang Jiang-li's face crumpled. Twisting a strand of hair, she thought, "How can a young woman like me be the mother of a 10-year-old? It's a bit of a gamble." His voice, now calm, resonated. "Du is a bit spoiled and headstrong, but she's not a bad kid. Please try to be patient with her." Lang Jiang-li finally looked up at him. All right. Don't worry. I heard she also enjoys blending fragrances. We have something in common. I'll cater to that interest. There shouldn't be any problems." He responded with a simple, "Mem." Suddenly, Lang Jiang-li couldn't resist teasing. "Have you spoken more words today than you have in the past year?" Ngahan Khan didn't deny. "ITMM." She couldn't hide the infatuation in her eyes, internally screaming, "Adorable." Suddenly, she leaned closer. "Since you cooperated so well with me today, I've instructed the kitchen to prepare a special meal for you." She picked up a piece of lotus root stuffed with rice and held it to his mouth. "Here, try this lotus root with glutinous rice. Is it good?" After tasting it, Ngahan Khan slowly commented, "Delicious. The aroma is very pure. The rice is soft. It's osmanthus. I've had the osmanthus cake you made. It was very good. I really like it." Lang Jiang-li looked at him blankly, thinking, "Is that so?" Then he suggested, "I think Juju might like it too." Hearing this, Lang Jiang-li sighed, "You're thinking about your precious daughter now. Don't worry. Even though I'm her stepmother, I won't mistreat her." He quickly said, "That's not what I meant." But Lang Jiang-li remained strangely calm, her voice even as she asked, "Then will you be returning to Yu Huang Courtyard later? Or going to Consort Lu?" At the mention of Consort Lu, he couldn't contain his curiosity. "Why would I go to Consort Lu?" She simply replied, "She's your wife." "How would I know why you want to go to Consort Lu?" Seeing the misunderstanding, he snapped, "I already told you, it's not like that." Hearing the anger in his voice, she calmly turned to him and questioned, "It's not like that. So why are you suddenly angry? Suit yourself." The night was quiet, a crescent moon hanging in the sky. Inside the room, at Ling Yinju, 2 figures slept soundly on the intricately carved rosewood bed. Suddenly, a hand reached out towards Lang Jiang-li's face. But before it could touch her, the hand hesitated and slowly retreated. Ngahan Khan opened his eyes, his gaze deep as he watched the person beside him. After a moment, he slowly lay back down, his breathing even in the quiet air. Autumn had arrived, and golden leaves carpeted the courtyard. A gentle breeze blew, carrying the sweet scent of earth and sky. Suddenly, Dao Fan hurried in to announce, Second Miss, and Madame Chu requests an audience." Lang Jiang-li turned to Guhan Khan in surprise, softly asking, "Why is Lang Ji here?" He quickly replied, "Tian Xiang Yuan is about to start its term, So the second miss arrived in the capital. Today, she came to see her cousin, Madame Chu. Madame Chu, after a moment of applying makeup, entered from outside. Looking at the two women before her, she softly invited them in. As soon as they stepped inside, Lang Ji immediately addressed her. Your Highness, Princess Consort, Tianxiang Yuan will be starting its term in a few days. They'll certainly invite you to attend the ceremony. Hearing this, Lang Jiangli calmly replied, attend the ceremony? Well, I've been in Xian City for a while now, but haven't had the chance to visit Tianxiang Yuan. I might as well broaden my horizons this time. Hearing this, Lang Ji thought to herself with venomous intent, you want to broaden your horizons? I'll show you exactly what that means, Lang Jiangli. I'm suppressing my anger for now, but just you wait. My chance will come soon enough. Then, with a seemingly casual expression, she asked, has your Highness, Princess Consort, created any new fragrances lately? Perhaps Madame Chu and I could offer our appraisal. Lang Jiangli simply chuckled and replied nonchalantly, you know, I don't really have that kind of talent, sister. Hearing this, Lang Ji's eyes widened, her voice laced with barely concealed malice. Oh, what a pity. Your Highness, Princess Consort, possesses so many wonderful ingredients, yet you haven't made any progress. Isn't that right? I heard there was a major incident in the prince's mansion recently, something involving poisonous fragrances. Could it be that your Highness, Princess Consort, felt your fragrance-making skills were lacking, so you switched to concocting poisons? As she finished speaking, her eyes, filled with provocative triumph, fixed on Lang Jiangli. Lang Jiangli's face remained impassive as she looked directly at the woman before her and slowly questioned, Second Miss Lang, those words have crossed the line. Are you still this naive? If you two have nothing important left to discuss, then please excuse yourselves. I'm tired. With that, she gracefully rose to her feet, her demeanor elegant, and hummed a tune as she left, ignoring Lang Ji, who sputtered incoherently with rage. Madame Chu, standing beside her, simply stared blankly after Lang Jiangli's retreating figure, unsure of what to do. Just then, Lang Jiangli suddenly turned around and declared triumphantly, I don't want to waste my breath on you. I'll crush you with my status. Just you wait and see. Hearing this, Lang Ji quickly turned to her cousin, pleading, Cousin, help me. But Madame Chu merely shielded her face with her fan, lowering her head to avoid Lang Ji's gaze, clearly unwilling to get involved. Meanwhile, at Zishi Xiang restaurant, Si Kong Nanjian sat across from Lang Jiangli, who was disguised as a man. He spoke in a calm and natural tone. Well, this is a bit awkward for me to bring up directly, but I've discussed it with Sister Yuning, and we feel that holding the first Spring Flower Festival in the new year is a bit late. We'd like to move it up. I'm here to ask how much fragrance you could produce if we moved it up. At this, Lang Jiangli's eyes lit up, her mind buzzing with excitement. Isn't this perfect timing? I was worried about the shop's grand opening not going smoothly, and now someone's delivered a golden opportunity right to my doorstep. A delicious morsel without any effort. That's what this is. Seeing her barely concealed delight, Si Kong Nanjian asked hesitantly, is this too much trouble for you? Lang Jiangli finally spoke, her voice thoughtful. How much earlier are you thinking? He immediately replied, 2 months earlier. Upon hearing this, she covered her face with her sleeve, trying to hide her overwhelming excitement. 2 months. That's perfect, she thought, practically bursting with joy. Si Kong Nanjian quickly added, don't worry, I won't move it up for nothing. All prices will be doubled. And if that doesn't work, everything in the shop is yours. He seemed afraid she would refuse, so he offered an incredibly good deal. After hearing it, she lightly rubbed her temples, feigning a soft sigh. You know that fragrance concoction is very difficult. I will try my best. Hearing these words, he laughed heartily and replied immediately, thank you, thank you. She politely responded with a smile, you're welcome, you're welcome. As soon as the words left her mouth, she thought to herself with the glee of a little devil, what an easily fooled young rabbit. The autumn air was filled with a dreamy atmosphere, with golden leaves rustling underfoot. Si Kong Nanjian left, returning to his room, his face still cheerful. Yun Ning, upon seeing him, stood up worriedly and asked, young master. He hesitated, then turned and said, Sister Yun Ning, do you want to ask why I still hold a grudge against Lang Jiangli, yet I sought her out to make fragrances? Yun Ning quickly replied, yes. He crossed his arms and slowly said, because for Zishi Xiang, these fragrances are an extremely important breakthrough. If that's the case, what does the past matter anymore? Therefore, I must appease her first. Wait until she finishes the work, then I will punish her later. Saying this, he walked away, not forgetting to snort angrily. She dares to face me and not recognize me. The brilliant sunset of autumn stretched across the sky like a magnificent painting. Lang Jiangli slowly returned to the prince's manor from outside, looking somewhat tired. Upon returning to Ling Yinzhu, she bumped into Nguhan Khan. Seeing him, she felt a pang of guilt, her heart pounding. Why is he here? Could he have discovered that I snuck out of the manor? Just as this thought crossed her mind, he asked in a cold voice, "Where did you go?" Hearing his deep voice, she stammered for a long moment before replying, I just went for a stroll elsewhere." He seemed slightly perplexed by her answer and continued to ask, "Elsewhere? Where?" She hesitated, looking away to avoid his gaze, and quickly replied, "Just into the city, to look at other fragrance shops." She scratched her head, thinking, I can't possibly tell him I went to visit a brothel. Detecting the discrepancy in her words and her flustered expression, Nguhan Khan slowly spoke with a profound tone. "Nothing else?" Hearing this question, Lang Jiangli wondered, is this a loaded question, or is he hinting at something? She could only faintly reply, "No, nothing else." Suddenly, Nguhan Khan softly called out, "Come here." She froze, suspicion rising in her heart. Come here? Could he have discovered that I'm cross-dressing as a man? But she slowly moved towards him, thinking, I can't worry about that much now. Let's see if I can keep up the pretense. Nguhan Khan took out a soft cotton cloth. He quickly draped it over her, his movements both natural and gentle. Her eyes widened in surprise, her face flushing like a ripe tomato. She snuck a glance at him. He said in a low voice, "Push me inside." She slowly replied, "Oh," and quickly pushed him into the room. She thought to herself, bewildered, Nguhan Khan, I didn't intentionally try to deceive you. It's just that it's better if you don't know about this for now. After all, I can't stay in the third prince's manor forever. And I can't stay by your side my whole life. After entering the room, Nguhan Khan instructed in a low voice, "There's a bowl of ginger soup on the table. Drink it while it's still hot." Hearing his warm words, a bright smile bloomed on her face. She thought to herself, surprised, it seems like he's changed a lot. He not only talks to me, but also cares about me secretly. Since when did this start? And why he suddenly seemed more human? As she pondered this, she slowly brought the warm ginger soup over. Her gaze, full of attentiveness, shifted to the person beside her. She asked in a daze, I feel like you're not the same as before. Are you sure you're not someone else in disguise? After speaking, she placed the bowl on the table and turned to gently touch his face. Nguhan Khan, feeling the familiar texture beneath her palm, she exclaimed, "It feels so smooth and soft. It really is you." At this moment, the person opposite her spoke in a low, cool voice. "Have you played enough?" Hearing this, she stuck out her tongue and then went inside to change clothes. Before leaving, she didn't forget to turn back and playfully say, "I won't tease you anymore." While changing, she thought to herself, I should still change clothes to avoid revealing my identity. Behind the screen, Nguhan Khan leisurely watched her and asked, "What are you doing?" Startled by the question, she spun around, her hands flusteredly covering her scantily clad body. Panic filled her. Should I just tell him I'm changing clothes? But if I do, he'll definitely ask why. After a long pause, she stammered, I was just outside and the wind was a bit strong. I'm combing my hair." Hearing this, Nguhan Khan slowly said, "It just so happens that the snow today made my hairpiece uncomfortable. Could you comb my hair for me?" Behind the screen, Lang Jiangli hugged her slender body, crying inwardly, "My lord, I'm only wearing an undergarment and a thin skirt. You want me to go out like this and comb your hair? If anyone sees, they'll think the third prince has strange hobbies." But on the surface, she forced a smile and replied, "Certainly." Then she quickly stepped out to help him comb his hair. While combing, she couldn't help but murmur in admiration, "You're a man, but your hair is so black and smooth. It's truly enviable. I wonder how you've managed to maintain it over the years. It would be wonderful if I could cut some and attach it to my own hair." As she spoke, she placed the wooden comb on the table. Suddenly, Nguhan Khan turned his head, his eyes fixed on her. He started to say, "Actually," but before he could finish, his gaze involuntarily fell upon the fullness of her chest. Feeling his warm breath on her, Lang Jiang's face instantly flushed crimson. She hurriedly backed away, intending to flee, but unfortunately tripped over a wooden wool beside her, causing her small frame to fall directly into his strong embrace. A small cry escaped her lips. She lay nestled against his chest, feeling his hand on her back. Her heart trembled, her face so red she dared not look up. Gahan Khan, equally startled, stammered, why aren't you dressed? His question caused Lang Jiangli to stutter. When you arrived, I was changing. Is that not allowed? She pushed him away. Just then, Gahan Khan's calm voice sounded. Why didn't you tell me you were changing? I needed my hair combed urgently. She quickly finished dressing, her face still flushed, and looked at him, saying, he didn't react at all. Are you even a normal man? I like walking around in my undergarments. Is that a problem? In the prince's manner, attending to the prince is naturally more important. Before she could finish, he had already turned to leave, leaving her standing there with a burning face. He suddenly stopped and lowered his head, as if hiding his own embarrassed expression. Outside, at the Xiancheng gate, the streets were bustling with people. Lang Jiangli calmly pushed him outside, her face a picture of composure and serenity. Seeing them both at this time, Hatuet couldn't help but be surprised. She stammered, "Why you two?" Hearing this, Lang Jiangli smiled brightly and asked, "So, do we look good?" The person opposite her leaned close to her ear and stammered in admiration. This isn't just good, it's too good. You two are going to an opening ceremony, not a beauty pageant. But our prince was previously known for his simplicity. Why is he so elaborate today? She couldn't contain her curiosity and asked the person in front of her. But Gahan Khan only gave a mysterious smile and didn't answer. Lang Jiangli recalled the moment back in a room when Gahan Khan had urged her, "Open it and see." She looked at the box in front of her, slowly opened it, and then froze. Holding the outfit, she stammered, this is..." Hearing her confused tone, the person behind her spoke, "Do you like it?" Hearing the question, she quickly turned around and excitedly replied, "I love it." Then she suddenly noticed a set of men's clothing placed beside it and asked in bewilderment, "Your Highness, did you also prepare a set for yourself?" Hearing this, he slowly replied, "This is the first time this prince and the princess consort will appear together in public. It's better to wear matching outfits. Is there a problem?" Hearing those words, she became even more excited and looked at him, saying, "Of course there's no problem." At this moment, Gahan Khan raised his head and said in a deep voice, "Then, help this prince change." After recalling those events, Lang Jiangli slowly raised her eyes to look at the person in front of her, smiled gently, and said, "Your Highness is naturally handsome. No matter what, you still look good. And you have such beautiful skin. Even if you dress simply, you still exude elegance. It's undeniable." Then she turned around and pushed him forward, not forgetting to say, let's go. It won't be good if we're late." Hatuet stood silently, watching their backs as they left. In her heart, she mused, if only His Highness could love someone again. On the other side of the corridor, Chu Huyen and her maid hurried along. Suddenly, she bowed deeply and respectfully said, "This concubine greets your Highness." "Greetings, Princess Consort. Where are you two going?" Receiving the question, Lang Jiangli simply replied, "Isn't today the opening ceremony at Tianhongvin? It just so happens that His Highness is free today, so we came to attend." Hearing this, the person in front of her couldn't contain her curiosity and spoke up. "Hasn't it been many years since His Highness attended any large or small invitations in Huintan? Why today?" But before she could finish her sentence, Gahan Khan interrupted, "I'm free today, so I'm going with her to take a look." After saying that, he quickly pushed Lang Jiangli forward, leaving Chu Huyen standing there. Chu Huyen then looked at the maid beside her and hurriedly instructed, "Go to Tianhongvin and inform Lang Qi. Tell her she must think of a way to humiliate Lang Jiangli in front of the crowd." Finishing her words, she frowned and gritted her teeth, thinking to herself, "You little vixen. I don't care what scheme you used to seduce His Highness, but whatever you swallowed, I'll make you spit it back out." Outside on the street, a red carriage slowly rolled along the clean, paved road. Lang Jiangli lifted the curtain and looked at the bustling scene outside. She excitedly suggested, Come on, let's bask in the sun. Your body is so cold. Basking in the sun is very good for you." Suddenly, the person beside her spoke in a low voice. "Jiang Li, if you meet your old acquaintances at Tianhongvin, will you be heartbroken?" Hearing this, she turned her head to look at him, her eyes clear. She slowly said, "I know two people at Tianhongvin. One is Lang Qi, My older sister, and the other is Han Dike, your younger sister. How could those two make me heartbroken? Explain it to me. Hearing this, Gahan Khan couldn't help but be surprised. Raising an eyebrow, he asked, "Is there no one else?" Receiving the question, she rested her chin in her hands, looking blankly at the person in front of her. Shaking her head, she replied, "Who else? I don't remember." He lowered his head slightly, his eyes deep and his voice low. "If you don't remember, then forget it. In short, you are now the princess consort of the third prince's manor." Hearing those words, she was bewildered, her heart full of doubt. Did I know someone? At the Tianheng Institute, golden leaves swirled and fell in the wind. Rows of people stood neatly in front of the courtyard. Two officials sat imposingly on the main seats. Lang Qi also stood in the ranks, her face calm. At the same time, Lang Jiangli entered with Nguhan Khan, attracting everyone's attention. Those present couldn't help but murmur when they saw Nguhan Khan. Am I seeing things? That's the third prince. How can this be? The sun must be rising in the west. However, today wasn't the day they would witness the end of the unbelievable. Tragically, at this moment, she calmly pushed forward into the scrutinizing gazes. Suddenly, a voice rang out, attracting her attention. Nephew Han Khan's couple is truly admirable. The newcomer was Prince Qin. He quickly replied, "Your Highness is too kind. We're just an ordinary couple. It has been many years, but your Highness is still very healthy and full of life." The prince smiled, the wrinkles around his eyes evident. The ha. The imperial lineage is quite thin now. We must rely on the younger generation. Han Khan and his wife should also strive to give the imperial family a grandson soon. Suddenly, someone appeared behind them, bowing obsequiously. "Your Highness Prince Qin, third prince, third princess consort. Welcome. I didn't see you from afar. My apologies. Please take your seats. Please take your seats." Lang Jiangli remained silent behind them, quietly observing the so-called Prince Qin. His words were strange. Although seemingly gentle, they carried an undercurrent of attack, much like the villainous characters in the palace dramas of her past life. Just then, drums sounded urgently. A figure stepped onto the platform. The person bowed to those in front. Seeing her, Lang Jiangli was startled, thinking, "It's Lang Qi." Suddenly, an uncomfortable feeling shot through her brain, as if someone was staring at her. After a moment of searching, she spotted Han Dike, who was blended into the crowd, smiling at her. Lang Jiangli smiled back gently, thinking, "She's such a clever and witty young lady. It's been a while since I've seen her. I must ask her where she's been gallivanting without me later." Suddenly, she was startled to discover another gaze. A man had been staring at her. Meeting his eyes, she thought bewilderedly, "So it was him looking at me all this time. But I don't know him." Thinking this, she remained calm. "If he likes looking, let him look. After all, I'm probably a prominent figure in Huintan. I'm not afraid of being looked at in a crowd." At that moment, an elderly official stepped forward and announced loudly, "The Tianheng Institute was established by the grace of the emperor to educate and train talented individuals." Gahan Khan turned to the person beside him and asked, "Why so quiet today?" Completely absorbed in listening, she seriously replied, "These are the truths passed down through generations of perfumers. The students sitting below the platform truly don't know how precious this is. If one carefully contemplates the Grand Preceptor's words, they will undoubtedly reach a new level in the art." Hearing this, Lang Jiangli slowly replied, "It's just that I don't quite understand. Why is the Grand Preceptor's vision so clear? Or, to put it another way, the incense system in this world is so complete, yet incense products haven't developed that much. Where exactly is the problem?" At this moment, Gahan Khan asked back, puzzled, "What do you mean by in this world?" Lang Jiangli was startled and thought in a panic, "Oh no, I misspoke." Then she quickly corrected herself with embarrassment. "I mean in this life. Is there something wrong?" Just at that moment, a eunuch's shadow emerged, loudly announcing, "Inviting Prince Qin." The prince stood up, then turned to the person beside him, his eyes deep as he spoke. "Nephew, every year, this old man represents the royal family and says a few words. This year, the Grand Preceptor didn't know you would also come, so my name was still written down. Since you are here, it's more appropriate for you to speak." Hearing these words, Lang Jiangli inwardly made a cold observation. There must be a problem between these two. However, she always had the feeling that Prince Qin had the upper hand, putting on a one-man show. Gahan Khan calmly said, "Prince Qin, I am merely accompanying my wife. I have no intention of representing the royal family." As if achieving his goal, Prince Qin replied, "In that case, I won't decline any further." At this moment, Lang Chi stepped out and announced resonantly, according to annual tradition, at the opening ceremony, there is a test of what the senior students learned the previous year. Now, all the herbs have been fully prepared. We invite all talented individuals to come up to the platform. As soon as she finished speaking, the people below eagerly went up. A certain man stared intently at Lang Jiangli, and she was no exception. Suddenly, a voice rang out. The last one is the disciple most valued by the Grand Preceptor, also the top disciple of the Thian Hung Institute, Fuang Vin Shi, from the most famous incense shop in Huintan, the Fuang family. Lang Shi immediately glanced towards the back. Lang Jiangli, noticing that gaze, thought blankly, what does her expression mean? The person sitting next to her also had suspicious eyes, thinking to himself, Fuang Vin Shi, does this person have any relation to me? Suddenly, Lang Jiangli's eyes widened as she saw the person in front of her glancing at her. She suddenly remembered, isn't this Fuang Vin Chi, the fiancé who broke off the engagement with the third Miss Lang? Because of this, the third Miss Lang committed suicide, and I transmigrated into Lang Jiangli. Now, damn it, it turns out it's him. The students quickly took their seats. Fuang Vin Shi also seriously began preparing his incense. Opposite him were Lang Jiangli and Guhan Khan. Suddenly, a thought appeared in his mind. Why is this Lang Jiangli not like the rumors? Didn't people say she was weak, useless, and constantly sick? That's why I decided to break off the engagement. But unexpectedly, she became the third prince's wife, the person who originally should have belonged to me. Thinking of this, he felt resentful, his eyes narrowing with a venomous look towards the front. Suddenly, Lang Jiangli made eye contact with him. At that moment, the hand beside her tugged on her clothes. Startled by Guhan Khan's unexpected action, she softly exclaimed, "Huh?" Simultaneously, Fuang Vin Shi furrowed his brows, his mind full of schemes. Don't you like watching me prepare incense? Isn't it because you like me that you like incense? So, he would concoct a type of incense. That. Lang Jiangli took the hand of the person sitting next to her, playfully fiddling with it in amusement. He's so fun. Her natural actions made Guhan Khan's ears turn bright red. He could only sit obediently and let her play. However, their intimate behavior further fueled the jealousy of the person opposite them. Just wait and see. Will that sickly, blind third prince still meet her then? At this moment, Lang Chi arrived with a tray before the officials seated on the platform, gently inviting them to evaluate the incense. Lang Jiangli accepted the newly prepared incense and seriously assessed it. Afterward, she set it down with an indifferent expression, thinking to herself, so this is a talented individual? Quite ordinary. Suddenly, the person in front of her stood up and asked in a distant voice, "May I ask, Princess Consort, what are your thoughts on the incense Vin Shi has prepared?" Hearing this, she reluctantly nodded and replied, "Very good, very good." Hearing her assessment, Fuang Vin Shi's eyes widened in disbelief. He questioned, "Just very good?" Then, would the princess consort please offer some specific feedback? Lang Chi, standing beside them, couldn't help but be taken aback by his agitated expression and demeanor. Lang Jiangli slowly analyzed, "Young Master Fuang's incense is indeed very good. You've chosen Green La and Su Man as the base notes. Although not particularly unique, it's certainly pleasing to the average woman." Hearing this, Fuang Vin Shi seemed to lose his composure, exclaiming, "Is there truly nothing special about it? This is the fragrance that, back then, He didn't finish his sentence before the person beside him interrupted. "The princess consort has a deep understanding. Perhaps she could personally create a fragrance for us to see." This person quickly recognized the opportunity to undermine her. She immediately spoke up, and the person opposite calmly replied, "If Sister Lang Chi has extended the invitation, I cannot be disrespectful." She stood up and slowly took a seat, beginning to prepare the incense. The students couldn't help but whisper amongst themselves, "Suspicious. Wasn't it rumored that the third princess consort's skills were ordinary? Could it be she's just trying to throw something together?" At the same time, Lang Jiangli spoke up, smiling, "Sorry to keep everyone waiting. I've finished." A veteran official pondered silently. "The third prince is present. How should I praise this fragrance to please him without being too insincere?" He took a sniff, and his face immediately fell as he considered it. Indeed, Lang Chi, feeling smug, suggested, "Headmaster, you should let everyone else have a try so they can learn." Someone brought the incense down for the students below to sample. After a moment, Lang Jiangli called out. Has everyone had a chance to smell it? Those below hastily replied, yes, and then began murmuring amongst themselves. What is this smell? So strange. Suddenly, a voice from behind interrupted. I haven't yet. Hearing that sound, she startled and quickly turned to look at Nguhan Khan apologetically. Oh dear, I forgot my husband. She then approached him and gently said, give me your hand. She dipped a brush into the incense and carefully painted a blooming rose onto the back of his hand. Once finished, Lang Jiangli urged, all right, try smelling it. He slowly inhaled the fragrance from his hand. She leaned closer and whispered, well, Nguhan Khan hesitated, then said, it smells wonderful. Hearing this, Lang Jiangli smiled, overjoyed. Meanwhile, the headmaster beside them hurriedly wiped away his sweat, thinking in a panic, is the third prince so besotted with his wife that he's lost his mind? Wasn't he known for his cold-blooded ruthlessness? He could only conclude, such deep affection between husband and wife. Deep affection between husband and wife. At this moment, she calmly stood up and slowly approached the head official, who was sitting not far away. She spoke softly, this is a new fragrance I've developed, based on the foundation of Yunhong. It's Scarlet Wutan Huan Ten Hung. Its application is different from before. Head official, you could try it again. After speaking, she gently drew a small symbol on the back of his aged hand. The head official cautiously brought his hand up and took a sniff. His eyes suddenly widened in surprise, and he stammered, the scent is fresh and very comfortable, like bamboo after a rain shower, very clear. It's so different from just now. How is this possible? Hearing the question, Lang Jiangli calmly explained, because the fragrance I've created needs to be applied sparingly to the desired location to release its true aroma. The wrist, between the eyebrows, behind the ears, or the ankles are all suitable areas. This enhances the diffusion of the scent. The women present couldn't contain their excitement and buzzed with anticipation. I really want to try it. So amazing, so amazing. She looked down at the students below, smiled, and continued, Thien Hung Vien has always been full of talent. This fragrance, if I may be frank, is merely based on the teachings of our predecessors and ancient recorded methods. It's not true innovation. Since I was young, my talent has been mediocre. I only knew one scent, Yuden Hung. But fortunately, I enjoy thinking and exploring. This Yuden Hon and Hung is the result of breaking away from old conventions and creating a new method of application. That's how I achieved this result. Lang Chi, standing to the side, couldn't help but interject sarcastically, if I may be so bold. It's just a change in how the fragrance is used. It doesn't give you the right to lecture everyone at Thien Hung Vien. Lang Jiangli simply glanced at her coldly without responding. At this point, the head official quickly raised his voice and shouted, Lang Chi, insolent. Startled by the reprimand, Lang Chi's face paled. At the same time, Lang Jiangli spoke slowly, her voice calm but firm out of course. This doesn't end here. The aroma in this incense box is complex because I've added 2 other scents not belonging to the Yud and Hung family and blended them together. Ultimately, after creating this new application method, I've created 2 new layers of fragrance, opening up new heights in fragrance creation. Lang Jiangli then looked towards the head official and softly urged, Head official, please try it. The head official cautiously sniffed the scent she had drawn on the back of his hand, then couldn't help but exclaim, How has the scent changed again? Just now, it was like rain in a bamboo forest, but now it exudes the sweet and sour aroma of autumn fruits, mixed with the subtle scent of tea. This is incredible, truly miraculous. He looked at her with admiration in his eyes. The surrounding people chattered nonstop. The fragrances we create, even with time, only fade, they don't transform. We've never encountered such a strange phenomenon. Hearing the barrage of questions, she calmly and patiently explained, Actually, I rely on different ingredients and varying diffusion times, dividing them into 3 layers of fragrance, top, middle, and base. These are called the fragrance notes. The head official could also try it. She smiled and continued, If you master these fragrance notes well, you might be able to create fragrances even more refined and surpassing what we have now. Fuang Vinci's face stiffened upon hearing this, and he quickly lowered his head in embarrassment. In contrast, the head official in front of her was full of praise. Marvelous, truly marvelous. At this moment, she was unaware that a pair of eyes were following her every move. Gohan Khan looked at her back and couldn't help but sigh inwardly, so she can shine so brightly. He then pursed his lips, looking at her with gentle eyes. Below, the students continued to chatter excitedly. She's truly unprecedented. So amazing. Hoo. The third princess consort is both beautiful and has a handsome husband. And she's so talented. I'm so envious. Sister Ling Ji, why don't you try? Where did Sister Ling Ji run off to? At this moment, outside, the head official bowed before Lang Jiangli, his voice respectful and humble. Madame Lang's eloquent speech has left this old man feeling deeply ashamed. Would Madame be willing to come to the Tianheng Institute to offer further guidance? The world of fragrance artistry is in dire need of talents like you. Hearing the earnest invitation, she gently declined. Head official, I truly possess no great talent. It's just a small skill. There are countless talented individuals within the institute. I wouldn't dare to boast, and I certainly wouldn't want to hinder the future of your disciples. Hearing this, the head official looked slightly panicked. He hurriedly opened his mouth. Don't say that. The process you described. But before he could finish his sentence, a sound came from inside the carriage, startling him. He could only watch wistfully as the carriage gradually disappeared, choking back the words, Madame Lang, please come back and lecture again when you have time. The doors of the Tianheng Institute are always open to you. As he spoke, he waved goodbye to the departing carriage. Inside the carriage, speeding down the main road, she suddenly took his hand and softly asked, was I impressive? Caught off guard by the unexpected question, the person opposite her didn't hold back, gently replying, impressive. Hearing the praise, she felt invigorated, thinking to herself, knowledge is power. Who would dare to harm me in the manner now? Suddenly, his deep voice broke through her train of thought. Jiangli. She responded dazedly, what? Unexpectedly, Nguhan Khan spoke, his voice hoarse. I regret it. Hearing this, she looked up in astonishment, hesitantly asking, regret what? Nguhan Khan then slowly continued. Originally, my brother wanted to arrange a marriage for me, but I chose you myself. The third miss of the Lang family, frail and constantly ill, timid and unconcerned with worldly affairs. But you're truly not like that at all. Today, you were magnificent. You were like the vast sky. He suddenly hesitated, leaving his sentence unfinished. Lang Jiangli asked in bewilderment, what do you mean? The person opposite her stammered, I want to take you away from here. Hearing his intention, she widened her eyes in surprise, staring at him and exclaiming, take me away. Not letting her say another word, he quickly instructed, you just stay put in the third prince's manor. When the time is right, I'll have Ha Tuet take you away. Han Dike once said you longed for freedom. I've thought about it for a long time. This deep, inner courtyard, with its endless struggles and schemes, offers nothing else. It only traps you in an invisible prison. I will grant your wish, so you can do whatever your heart desires. After hearing these words, she simply lowered her head without saying a word. Her eyes drooped slightly as she thought to herself, this has always been my wish, but why does it feel so uncomfortable hearing Nguhan Khan say it? After a moment of silence, Lang Jiangli hesitantly asked, then, after you send me away. Hearing the question, Nguhan Khan slowly replied, perhaps we will never see each other again in this lifetime. Only then did she speak, her eyes slightly reddened. Nguhan Khan, before I met you, I had never met anyone like you. Completely inconsiderate of others' feelings, domineering and autocratic, yet acting like some kind of bodhisattva. In any case, we are from two different worlds. At most, we could be considered comrades who have shared hardships. If you wanted to leave, I can go whenever. Like you said, after we part, we will never see each other again. After these words, her face creased with a hint of sadness. By now, the carriage had arrived at the gates of the prince's manor. Xia Shui stepped forward and bowed, respectfully saying, welcome home, your highness, princess consort. Ling Jiangli quickly stepped out of the carriage. She didn't say a word, walking straight inside, ignoring the person standing outside. At the same time, a heavy cough echoed from within the carriage. Someone outside anxiously called out, Your Highness. Nguhan Khan inside covered his mouth and slowly said, I'm fine. Return to Yu Huang courtyard. Ling Jiangli returned to Ling Yanzhu. As she reached the door, Tao Fen ran out, excitedly asking, Miss, you're back. Was the Tianxiang Institute fun? Hearing this, she paused, then turned to her servant and yelled, Tao Fen, I'm telling you from now on, you are not allowed to mention Nguhan Khan's name again. We are like fire and water. The next day, a gentle breeze blew, causing the leaves to flutter softly. Tao Fen called frantically from outside, Miss, wake up, we have a visitor. Hearing the call, she slowly sat up, rubbing her swollen, red eyes. Seeing this, the person opposite her asked worriedly, "Miss, what's wrong?" Ling Jiangli calmly replied, "I'm fine." "What's the matter?" Hearing this, Tao Fan said in a panic, "That's right, miss. Quickly wash your face. Her Highness the Princess is here." Ling Jiangli's mind went blank. "Andi, what's she doing here?" In a main hall, a woman stood with her back turned, gazing intently outside. Hearing the sound of footsteps entering, she turned around. The person behind her quickly said, "Han Di greets third sister-in-law." "Third sister-in-law, I've kept you waiting." But Ling Jiangli frowned, confused. "Who is this young woman? Who is this?" Then, clutching her chest, she said, forcing a polite tone, "Princess, there's no need for such formality." Jiangli is humbled. The person beside Han Di, the ninth prince, quickly spoke up, "Han Mo greets third sister-in-law." Seeing him, Ling Jiangli smiled and replied, "So you're Han Mo? I finally get to meet you." He looked up and replied, "I've been free these past few days. Since it's been a while since third brother's wedding, we haven't visited the third prince's manor yet. So we wanted to pay our respects and see our new sister-in-law." Hearing this, Ling Jiangli asked blankly, "Why new sister-in-law? Is there an old sister-in-law?" Hanamo, realizing his slip-up, quickly covered his mouth and said, No, I didn't mean a new wife." Handi, sensing the awkwardness, quickly pushed her brother aside and interjected with a forced laugh, "Ha ha ha, yes, third sister-in-law. Why are you alone? Where's third brother?" Ling Jiangli walked towards the table and sat down before calmly replying, "Oh, your third brother is being a bodhisattva, granting me the freedom to leave this place soon." Understanding the situation, Han Di quickly stepped forward, slamming her hand on the table in Gu Han Khan's defense. Why foolish third brother, after all these years, still hasn't seen the light. Truly, bitten by a snake, 10 years afraid of well ropes. Sooner or later, he'll drive himself to ruin. Ling Jiangli finally paid attention to her words. Bitten by a snake, 10 years afraid. That's a good one. Han Di, hearing her words, began to stammer. Ling Jiangli maintained a calm facade, as if nothing was wrong, but inside, she was impatiently urging her on. "Hurry up, or I'll reveal your secret of disguising yourself as a man to everyone." Han Di trembled, thinking, yikes, third sister-in-law is scared today. After a moment of suffocating silence, she slowly began to recount. Back then, when third brother was still young, he loved a woman. Later, when he led the troops to battle, he took her with him. But then, third brother suddenly fell gravely ill, and the woman disappeared without a trace. Finished, she looked at Ling Jiangli with an innocent, blameless expression. After hearing those words, the person opposite her face stiffened. They furrowed their brows and said, "Just that. I was already with my melon and gossip face." As she spoke, the piece of melon in her hand fell to the ground, a symbol of irredeemable disappointment. The person opposite her scratched their head and replied, "I was still young that year. I only heard it said that way." Hanemo, beside her, nodded in agreement, adding, "Me too." Hearing these words, Ling Jiangli's body trembled as she muttered in frustration, "It's so annoying to only get half the story. Do you two even know?" Suddenly, Han Di had an idea. Her eyes brightened as she exclaimed, "Sister-in-law, you could ask Consort Lu. Isn't she his favorite?" Suddenly, Han Mo interrupted, covering his older sister's mouth, and blurted out their true purpose. "We three want to buy the yud and hone and hung that you made before." Hearing this, Han Di chimed in excitedly, Right. All the noble ladies love it, so we want to take this opportunity to buy some. You understand, right?" The person beside her echoed in agreement. But then, his face turned somber as he slowly said, "Moreover, my mother is sick in bed. We want to buy the soothing peace incense to place by her pillow, hoping it can help alleviate her headaches caused by her illness." Hearing this, Ling Jiangli's eyes widened abruptly. She thought to herself, "I clearly remember Han Mo's mother passed away a long time ago. If I have the chance, I also want to see what's really going on." She closed her eyes slightly and slowly said, "I can give you the recipe and the ingredients, but I have a small request." Hearing this, the two in front of her leaned closer and whispered, "What request?" 3 days later, Ling Jiangli was dozing at her desk, surrounded by countless pieces of paper with notes on ingredients and cultivated herbs. Tao Fan approached, tidying up as she softly said, "Miss, wash your face and go to sleep. You've been working on the incense for 3 days without any rest." Ling Jiangli quickly looked up, her voice full of worry and determination. "No, The Wanxiangji's grand opening is approaching. I must create the best product for the shop. Suddenly, her eyes widened in surprise as she exclaimed, "Huh." Gohan Khan and Xia Shui entered from outside. After a moment, she stood up, her voice tinged with sarcasm. What wind blew the living Buddha here? The third prince, busy with 1,001 tasks, has come here. Taofan looked up in astonishment, stammering, "THTH third." By this time, the two had already stepped inside. Xia Shui quickly ushered Taofan out. "Little one, don't interfere in adult matters." The door was swiftly closed. Inside, Gohan Khan presented a box, saying softly, "This is for you." Ling Zhongli opened the box hesitantly and asked, "What is this?" Hearing her question, he averted his gaze slightly and replied, "A gift from my mother and Yao Yao." Inside were 5 small boxes inscribed with childish, scrawling characters. Ling Zhongli's face turned cold. She closed the lid and returned the box to him. "Understood. I won't embarrass you. It's late. I have to sleep. Goodbye." She turned to leave, but before she could take more than a few steps, he grabbed her hand, his voice calm, "Sleep together." Hearing this, Ling Zhongli's face flushed crimson as she yelled, "What did you say? You pervert." He continued calmly, "I said change my clothes. Sleep together." She furrowed her brows, biting her lip in anger. "You come and go, as you please. Do you think I'm running a therapy clinic? Ordering me around like this?" She flung her hand out, accidentally hitting his face, causing his mask to fall off. Gohan Khan immediately closed his eyes. Realizing she had gone too far, she quickly said, I didn't mean to." He looked up and replied gently, "It's all right. If you don't want to, I won't make you touch me." Ling Zhongli opened her eyes wide, looking at him. Then, she unexpectedly spoke up, suggesting, "Then, could you open your eyes wide and let me see?" But Gohan Khan only slowly said, "Help me put on my blindfold, then go to sleep." Ling Zhongli helped him remove his hair ornament. But in her heart, she couldn't stop thinking, why doesn't he like other people looking into his eyes? Is it because he can't accept the truth that he can't see? Night had fallen, blanketing the sky. The quiet atmosphere invited contemplation. Inside Ling Yanzhu, she lay beside him, thinking to herself, "This man is too much. Acting like this, how can anyone stay angry at him?" Then she recalled helping him brush his hair and change his clothes. Just the thought made her want to cry in frustration. Suddenly, a warm hand reached out to her, gently pulling her into an embrace. Ignoring Ling Zhongli's bewildered gaze, he spoke, his voice low and husky as if coaxing a child. "Be good, go to sleep." She hesitated for a moment before scolding, "Gohan Khan, you bastard." Hearing this, he didn't get angry, but instead calmly replied, The next day, at Zhuai Shixiang, several exquisite desserts were prepared on the table. Dressed in men's clothing, she sat down, nibbling on the treats while looking around. "Congratulations, Brother Sikong. Zhuai Shixiang's reputation is a complete success," she said, observing the bustling atmosphere. The customers below bustled about. At that moment, Sikong Nanjian, sitting opposite her, spoke up. "Isn't this thanks to the beautiful woman who concocts your fragrances, adding another layer of allure to my establishment? Recently, so many people have been coming to request your incense. I've said many times that it's Wan Xiang's product, helping you with publicity. But why haven't you made any moves? Aren't you afraid of losing customers?" Hearing this, Ling Zhongli calmly analyzed. "What people can't have is what they desire most. I've been holding back, waiting for the grand opening to earn a lot of silver." After hearing her explanation, he leaned back slightly, nodding in approval. "Excellent, excellent." At that moment, firecrackers exploded, the sound echoing throughout Wanxiang. People crowded in front of the entrance. Inside, the salespeople quickly advised and persuaded each customer. "Madam, we have a reputation because our products are personally crafted and hard to come by." Hearing this, the people inside excitedly exclaimed, "We want some too." A man stepped forward and slowly announced, "Thank you, esteemed customers. The incense requires our personal attention to create. Currently, we only have a finished product available." Those facing him couldn't hide their disappointment and regret. Ling Zhongli was sorting through incense ingredients when Taofan rushed in from outside, excitedly exclaiming, Miss, all the perfumes sold out today. I haven't seen this much silver in a long time." Her eyes sparkled, bright as the Milky Way. Hearing this, Ling Zhongli looked up in surprise and said joyfully, We're rich. Help me divide tomorrow's portion into 2 boxes. My hand is numb." At the same time, Gohan Khan appeared. He offered his congratulations. Congratulations, madam, on your fortune. The two in front of him turned to look at the newcomer. Ling Zhongli smiled and replied, Hee hee, it's rare for you to be so sweet. Here's a red envelope for you. But he didn't respond, instead silently handing her a red invitation. She took it, reading with surprise, What's this? Lady Shimin. He calmly replied, the Inner Palace Grand Courtyard, second rank. In a few days, it's her birthday. Are you going? Ling Zhongli pondered, surprised. If I can take this opportunity to introduce Wan Xianggu to the royal family. Wouldn't that be a step up? She responded enthusiastically, of course. I'll do it. Was it you who mediated this? She hesitantly asked. The person in front of her coughed slightly before replying. Don't overthink it, Ling Zhongli said, slightly bowing her head, recognizing his demeanor that I won't. Thank you. Gohan Khan turned to leave, adding, I have to return to the Yu Huang courtyard tomorrow. I won't be attending this banquet. If you feel lonely, I'll have Han Di come and keep you company. The person behind him spoke in bewilderment. Wasn't everything fine 2 days ago? Why are you leaving now? She hesitantly asked, Why are you going back? He paused before replying, I have some personal matters to attend to. Hearing this, the person behind him lowered her head, falling silent. The full moon hung high in the night sky. Red lanterns glowed brightly, illuminating a corner of the imperial city. Servants bustled in and out, carrying trays. The hurried footsteps blended with the lively music of the banquet. She stood before the hosts of the banquet. Bowing respectfully, she said, Lady Shimin, I have prepared a small gift. I hope you won't find it unworthy. Lady Shimin's eyes widened in surprise. This is the fragrance of Wan Xianggu, she exclaimed. The banquet attendees gasped and began whispering amongst themselves. Impossible. Hasn't Wan Xianggu refused to create custom fragrances? Someone offered a fortune for a custom blend, and they still refused. Another person couldn't help but offer a theory. The third princess consort is married to the third prince. Perhaps she didn't have to spend a single coin to have Wan Xianggu create this fragrance for her. Hearing such a blunt statement, the person beside him quickly interjected, Didn't we inquire with the royal family? Haven't they always refused outsiders? Can the third princess consort really create fragrances? That's quite a skill. Lady Shimin looked up curiously and asked, This is? Ling Zhongli calmly replied, This is a fragrance crafted by Wan Xianggu. Lady Shimin opened the box to sample the scent. As the fragrance wafted out, her eyes widened, leaving her speechless in astonishment. Immediately, the guests began to exclaim, This scent is truly tailored to Lady Shimin's essence. Indeed, I have some knowledge of fragrance crafting. This is truly a top-tier fragrance, undoubtedly created by Wan Xianggu. Lady Shimin beamed and asked, If I may be so bold, Your Highness, are you acquainted with the owner of Wan Xianggu? Ling Zhongli simply smiled and replied, I'm the owner of Wan Xianggu. All of Wan Xiangji's fragrances are personally crafted by me. The attendees erupted in shocked exclamations. What? The third princess consort? Ling Zhongli then calmly asked, Lady Shimin, do you like the gift? Lady Shimin quickly replied, I love it. Thank you, Your Highness, for your generosity. I'm truly overwhelmed. Look at us, making Your Highness stand for so long. Quickly, offer her a seat. After being seated, Ling Zhongli said, You're too kind, madam. This is nothing compared to precious jewels. I hope you don't find it lacking. Lady Shimin quickly responded, I've heard that Wan Xianggu doesn't sell its fragrance formulas. I'm so honored. May I ask when Your Highness plans to start selling your fragrances? The other guests' eyes lit up, nodding in agreement. My wife would also like to know. Indeed, Ling Zhongli calmly replied. Actually, Wan Xianggu was prepared to start accepting custom fragrance orders. The women at the banquet immediately responded with excitement. Your Highness, can I pre-order? Here's the silver. Any price is fine. I want some too. Me too. Ling Zhongli smiled and said, There's enough for everyone. One by one, please. She laughed and began taking orders. Meanwhile, the matriarch of the Ling family appeared. Upon seeing her, Ling Li asked in surprise, Mother, why are you here? The matriarch frowned and spoke sternly. Lately, the whole capital has been buzzing with rumors. Have you heard? That Wan Xianggu is Ling Jiangli's business. Ling Li slowly replied, Of course, I've heard. It's all over the capital. Who knows what tricks that Ling Jiangli used? The matriarch furrowed her brow and said, That girl is getting too ambitious now, with the royal family backing her. We can't let her continue to grow. Hearing this, Ling Li seemed to guess her mother's intentions, but still asked, "So, what do you propose, mother?" The matriarch didn't answer directly, but instead whispered, "I have my ways. Give me your hand." Back at Wanxiangge, Ling Zhongli slowly stepped out of her carriage. She was met with the sight of a large crowd gathered in front of the shop. "What is this?" she asked, bewildered. Suddenly, a woman rushed from the crowd and yelled at her, "What kind of Wanxiangge takes money but doesn't deliver? All show and no substance." Another person quickly added, "That's right. Look at those ladies and young misses. Their faces are all ruined. Merchants these days, they'll do anything for money." A woman with a veiled face said indignantly, "What kind of fragrance is this? It's ruined my face." Ling Jiangli calmly replied, "Madam, your face is experiencing an allergic reaction. It will recover in a few days. I'll have someone send medicine to your residence tonight." She then looked around at the suspicious crowd. They all seemed to be suffering from allergic reactions. While she was lost in thought, analyzing the situation, Tao Fun, who was behind her, asked worriedly, "Miss, what's going on?" Ling Zhongli simply replied, "We've been set up." Then, straightening up, she addressed the crowd clearly, "Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you'll trust me. Give me a few days, and I'll give you a satisfactory answer." Suddenly, a man interrupted the conversation. "Third princess consort, as a member of the royal family, how dare you do such a thing? You're truly damaging the reputation of the royal family." Hearing these words, Tao Fun's face paled, and she immediately turned to look at the man. Ling Jiangli quickly reminded her, "Stay silent." Tao Fun nodded slightly, looking around. Most of these people seemed to have been bribed to cause trouble. Alarmed, she asked, "Your Highness, what should we do?" Before she could finish, Ling Jiangli stepped forward and confronted the man. "This is a matter of commerce, yet you insist on saying it damages the royal family's reputation. Are you trying to speak for the emperor and scold me? How can a few words damage the royal family's reputation? Who sent you to cause trouble here? How much did they pay you?" The man stammered, unable to answer. This. Suddenly, someone from the crowd rushed out, shouting, "Your Highness, something's wrong with our fragrance. I accidentally spilled some on my hand just now, and it immediately turned red." Everyone present was shocked. Ling Jiangli frowned, thinking, "You think I don't see you're deliberately causing trouble? This is outrageous bullying. You even dare to bring your own people to act right in front of me." At this moment, Ling Jiangli quickly stepped forward and spoke clearly, "Everyone, our Wanxiangge has always been upright and honest. All the ingredients used in our products strictly adhere to the supplier's standards. This time, Wanxiangge has been sabotaged. Please rest assured, I will definitely investigate the truth." At this, those present widened their eyes at her. No one spoke a word. The official in charge immediately turned and entered the shop, saying, "Shopkeeper, close the doors. Wanxiangge is closed for 5 days." Inside the shop's back room, the person who had run out to report was still standing before her. Ling Jiangli's face furrowed slightly, and she said seriously, "Brought here? I'll tell you directly." The man opposite her paled. She pointed directly at his face and continued, "Get out. Your acting is terrible. Shopkeeper, throw him out." The person addressed as shopkeeper quickly bowed his head and replied, "Yes." Then he immediately led the other man away. Suddenly, she softly instructed, "Tao Fun, send someone to follow him closely." The person behind her quickly responded, "This servant understands." By now, the teacup on the table was half empty. Ling Jiangli looked at the person in front of her and questioned, "The people you recruited don't even grasp the internal situation, letting things become this chaotic. Deduct 3 months' wages." The other person quickly bowed and replied, "Princess consort, your punishment is just. I will be more careful in selecting personnel in the future." As night fell over everything at Ling Yanju, she sat attentively examining a pile of papers. Found it. All the ingredients here were deliberately laced with irritating herbs. No wonder. She muttered that, "I personally oversaw the blending of the fragrances, so the problem must lie in the sales process. Someone in the shop must be tampering with the products before they're sold." At this moment, a maidservant entered and bowed, saying, "Princess consort, dinner is ready. Please come and dine." She looked up, surprised, and asked, "Ching Sam, aren't you only responsible for cleaning?" Where's Tao Fun? The person called Ching Sam quickly replied, Sister Tao Fun suddenly caught a cold and is bedridden. Therefore, she sent me to attend to you. Hearing this, Ling Jiangli murmured in astonishment, I sent her out to do a small errand this morning. How could she suddenly fall ill? Ching Sam then accompanied her to Tao Fun's side. The maidservant continued to recount the events. Sister Tao Fun didn't return until the hour of the rooster. She hadn't eaten all day and went straight to sleep. I went to the kitchen to make her some lotus seed soup. After eating, she said she was sleepy and fell asleep. She approached and slowly sat down beside Tao Fun. Ching Sam continued, and then she fell unconscious. No matter how we called her, she wouldn't wake up. The physician in the residence said she has a fever. At this, a flicker of suspicion crossed Ling Jiangli's mind. She had sent Tao Fun to find that man and investigate the clues, and now Tao Fun was ill. How could there be such a strange coincidence? After a moment, she instructed, find someone to care for Tao Fun. The other person quickly replied yes. As she was returning to Ling Yanzhu, Si Kong Nanjian suddenly appeared on the roof, greeting her, good evening. Ling Jiangli looked up, bewildered, and asked, it's the middle of the night. You're sitting on the roof of the prince's consort's residence? Don't you find that inappropriate? He jumped down and stood before her, demanding, I urgently need to see you. Something happened at Wanxiangge. The girls at Zue Shilu. My bones are ruined. How are you going to compensate me for my face? She lowered her head and softly replied, I apologize. Wanxiangge was sabotaged. Tomorrow morning, I will definitely investigate and uncover the truth. Now, let me get you some medicinal formulas for the girls. But before she could finish, he grabbed her hand. He looked at her and slowly said, just kidding. Our girls, initially, because of Wanxiangji's reputation, their value increased to a new level. This place shouldn't require my assistance. Any leads yet? Ling Jiangli slowly walked forward as she spoke. There was a customer in the shop whose behavior was too obvious. After I sent him away, I secretly dispatched Tao Fun to follow him. However, the results haven't been clear. Then Tao Fun suddenly fell ill. Si Kong Nanjian, walking behind her, asked in surprise, such a coincidence? What illness? She turned around and slowly replied, the doctor said it was a high fever. He frowned and analyzed, something's not right. I'll go take a look. It's very possible Tao Fun discovered something and was poisoned by the person behind this. The person beside her asked in surprise, you think so too? Si Kong Nanjian calmly replied, the mastermind is unexpectedly cruel, even resorting to poisoning to silence someone. Interesting. After hearing this, the person beside him asked blankly, what should we do now? Is Tao Fun's life in danger? He slowly explained, she's still alive. If the culprit's goal is just to close Wanxiangge due to bad reputation, then this is likely a slow-acting poison, not immediately life-threatening. Before she fell ill, did she eat anything unusual? Maybe we can find an antidote. Ling Jiangli answered softly, her voice full of worry. I was also uneasy and asked Ching Sam. Ching Sam said she ate it all. Suddenly, her eyes widened in alarm. Wait, she said urgently, the tasteless cake specifically for the prince. Ching Sam only does cleaning and doesn't know the rules, so she gave the tasteless cake to Tao Fun. Hearing this, his eyes darkened. He murmured, so it was meant for you. She muttered in a panic, who is it? Not only do they want to ruin my shop, but they also want to take my life. Si Kong Nanjian frowned seriously. This is a serious matter. After a moment of silence, she slowly suggested, I'll tell you the information Tao Fun found. You continue to follow the clues and see if you can find the person behind this poisoning. It's highly possible they've planted someone inside the prince's residence. This is my territory. I'll investigate. She turned to look at the person standing behind her. He remained silent. Seeing no reaction, she asked, did you hear? But she was met with Si Kong Nanjian's back. He hesitated for a moment before replying softly, I heard. I'll go do it. She stood there, thinking, there's a villain in the residence. I'll start with Chu Hui Yuan. The next day, a scream echoed from inside a room. That it wasn't me. Ling Jiangli stood opposite her and said slowly, I haven't even said anything yet. Chu Foreign. What do you mean by this? The woman opposite her hurriedly defended herself. I know why you're here. The tasteless cake was poisoned. I know. Not only do I know, but I also know who did it. Come out, she called out in one direction. Her maid quickly brought another woman forward. Your Highness, Foreign. Today, when this servant went to the kitchen to fetch breakfast for Foreign, I caught her poisoning the tasteless cake. Seeing the woman, she exclaimed in surprise, "You're—" But before she could finish, another person interrupted, Wang Rui. Wang Foreign's person has been exposed. Wang Rui's eyes darted nervously. Chu Huiyin then said, "Yesterday, the news of Tao Fan's illness came from your side. Today, this happened. I immediately guessed the reason. This person is handed over to you. You can deal with them as you see fit." Having said that, the person walked out. She watched them go and muttered softly, sneaking off to visit the chicken coop. Chu Huiyin, hearing this, snapped, "What did you say?" Ling Jiangli didn't avoid her gaze. Turning back, she said, "I'm just curious. Why are you suddenly being so kind?" Chu Huiyin, upon hearing the question, replied, "Clearing up relationships and returning to Ling Yanzhu." Ling Jiangli couldn't help but ponder Chu Huiyin's words. What did she mean by clearing up relationships? Wang Rui was now kneeling before her, quickly pleading, "Your Highness, this concubine truly didn't do it on purpose. This concubine knows her mistake." Hearing this, Ling Jiangli only responded indifferently. "You keep saying these two sentences. Say something else. What was your motive?" Wang Rui hesitated, then said between sobs, "This concubine thought that His Highness would be returning to the residence in a few days. Last time His Highness returned to Ling Yanzhu, this concubine wanted him to come to this concubine's quarters. This concubine learned the Huxian dance for His Highness." Having heard the motive, Ling Jiangli's face stiffened, her lips twitching. "What?" Wang Rui hurriedly continued, "But it's definitely not poison. It's just an ordinary medicine. It's not harmful to the body. Even if this concubine had the audacity, she wouldn't dare poison your highness." At this, Ling Jiangli's face remained rigid as she exclaimed, "So, the incident at Wanxianga has nothing to do with you? There's no inside and outside collaboration? It's purely out of love." Hearing these words, Wang Rui looked blank, raising her head to ask, "What inside and outside collaboration?" "Something happened at Wanxianga." Seeing her expression, Ling Jiangli couldn't help but analyze the situation internally. She seems to genuinely not know anything. Perhaps these two incidents are just a coincidence. After a moment of thought, she reluctantly said, "Forget it. Quickly bring out the antidote. This is such a mess." Wang Rui lowered her head further and said, "But there is no antidote." Hearing this, Ling Jiangli cried out in alarm, "What? You bought poison without an antidote? Aren't you afraid of being poisoned?" Wang Rui stammered, I'm allergic to peaches. Everyone in the residence knows, so no one buys peach cakes for me." Ling Jiangli put a hand to her forehead in exasperation, her voice filled with fatigue. "You really are clever. Give me the rest of the poison. I'll see how to resolve this." Due to Wang Rui's excessive jealousy, Ling Jiangli ordered her confined for half a year and then signaled for her to leave. Outside, the rain fell like a drizzle. In front of Wanxianga, Ling Jiangli stood there, holding an umbrella, silently looking at the shop she had painstakingly built over the years. After a while, she spoke, her voice soft but sharp. "How is it?" Sikong Nanjian, a figure in bright red, stood beside her, their gaze slowly following hers. They said in a deep voice, "I've been following a servant. He has a lead." Ling Jiangli asked, "Who do you suspect?" Sikong Nanjian looked at her with a probing gaze. Hearing this, Ling Jiangli also looked at the person beside her, furrowing her brow and asking, "It's not the shopkeeper, is it?" Sikong Nanjian was startled. "How did you know?" Ling Jiangli widened her eyes in surprise that I was just guessing. Initially, I docked his pay for 3 months, and he had no reaction whatsoever. As far as I know, he has elderly parents and young children at home. His life is very difficult. If deducting money didn't faze him, then it must be because someone offered him more money. She continued to analyze as they walked. Sikong Nanjian, standing beside her, smiled and replied, "Indeed. With a woman as intelligent as you, how could the third prince possibly endure?" Ling Jiangli looked at him, puzzled. "Why are you mentioning him out of the blue? Did you find anything else? Go on." After walking for a while, the two stopped on a bridge. Ling Jiangli suddenly spoke. "That shopkeeper is extremely cunning, spreading rumors everywhere." Sikong Nanjian then slowly continued. "Ultimately, his final stop was the Ling family estate." Hearing this, Ling Jiangli's face paled and she cried out. Then, she tried to compose herself and think. If it was the Ling family, it was probably a wicked scheme of Ling Ji and her mother. A good performance would indicate she had nothing to do with it. The female protagonists who transmigrate in novels can control everything. Why is it that when it's my turn, I'm either poisoned or targeted? The more she thought, the more those images flashed before her eyes, fueling her anger. She shouted, "This is outrageous bullying. Can I sue my relatives here?" Her outburst caused passers-by to turn their heads. Sikong Nanjian, beside her, reluctantly reminded her, "Such strange thoughts will be considered unfilial." After a moment, the two walked forward side by side. Ling Jiangli suddenly spoke, "So what should we do? We have to find a way to deal with them, to make them know I'm not easy to mess with. Can you investigate how much silver the shopkeeper received from the Ling family?" He quickly replied, "Already investigated. I heard it was 300 taels of silver." What? Hearing this, she walked away, saying, "Let me think about it." Sikong Nanjian remained on the bridge, staring after her, murmuring, "How interesting. What surprise will this girl bring me this time?" That evening, in Tao Fun's room, Ching Sam bowed before her, anxiously asking, "What should we do?" "Princess consort, you've tried so many methods, and they're all useless." Ling Jiangli sat on the bed, looking at the worried Tao Fun. Suddenly, a figure appeared outside. "Princess consort, are you in there?" "It's Xia Shui. Why are you here at this time?" Xia Shui smiled, presenting something to her. "The prince told me to give this to you." Taking the item, Ling Jiangli frowned. Why didn't he dare to come himself? Xia Shui looked flustered, scratching her head and stammering, "The prince is busy and couldn't make it." Ling Jiangli said coldly, "He's quite comfortable, isn't he? Leaving all the responsibilities behind while the manor is in chaos. He doesn't even bother to manage it." She quickly opened the package Nguhan Khan had sent. After reading it, she looked at Xia Shui in surprise, her eyes full of doubt. Then, she softly said, "This is the antidote for Tao Fun. Does the prince know what's happening in the manor?" Xia Shui replied with sincerity and seriousness, "The prince always cares about Madam's affairs. It seems he was once poisoned by this same poison, so he knows the cure. That's why he told me to bring this over." Ling Jiangli continued to read the instructions carefully. Then, closing her eyes, she replied in a low voice, "I understand. I'll send someone to give this to the physician. What about the Wan Xiangge matter? Doesn't he intend to help?" Xia Shui looked flustered, her eyes filled with unease. She leaned in and whispered, "There's really nothing that can be done about that. The emperor is always watching the prince. He can't use his power or force. This entire manor is filled with who knows how many spies." Hearing this, Ling Jiangli sighed helplessly and said, her voice soft but carrying a deep meaning, "All right, I understand. I'll handle it myself." The next afternoon, a slender hand gracefully fed the fish. A servant girl approached and bowed slightly, announcing, "Madam, third princess consort requests an audience." Shimenforen was puzzled. After a while, the two sat facing each other in the courtyard amidst a quiet, windless scene. After hearing the story, Shimenforen couldn't help but sigh. "I've heard about the Wan Xiangge incident, but I never imagined there were so many hidden complications behind it." Ling Jiangli, sitting opposite her, replied calmly, her tone resolute, "Yes, I can't touch the person behind it for now, but it could diminish their authority with the shopkeeper." Ling Jiangli was composed, but before she could finish, Madame Shimen interrupted, unable to hide her worry. "Using torture won't make him talk. I've already sent someone to report the case to the authorities, accusing the shopkeeper of embezzlement. I wanted to ask for your help, madam. I heard the magistrate is taking this case seriously. It's best to send someone to his house," she suggested. She leaned closer to Madame Shimen and offered a small box, lowering her voice, "Search. I prepared a small gift. It's a new product for next season, not yet released. I wonder if Madam would like it." Seeing the limited edition product, Madame Shimen's eyes immediately sparkled. She looked up, smiling at Ling Jiangli. Now, look what you're saying," she replied gently. "This is no trouble at all. To be able to help the third prince's manor is a blessing for our Shimen family." The next day, Tao Fen was helping Ling Jiangli dress, meticulously adjusting every detail. Suddenly, she asked, "I see you're much better." Ling Jiangli quickly replied, her voice still weak, but her eyes bright, "I felt better early this morning. It's a pity that I couldn't help with this matter and fell ill." Hearing this, Ling Jiangli looked towards the table, her gaze calm and gentle. "Don't blame yourself. If you hadn't taken that blow for me, you wouldn't be sick now, and it would have been me lying here. All right, let's go watch the show," Ling Jiangli said, excitedly pulling Tao Fen along. Outside, a curious crowd had already gathered. The shopkeeper was bowing before Ling Jiangli. She said nothing, simply sipping her tea calmly as if admiring the scenery. The shopkeeper trembled, hastily pleading, "Your Highness, I've been truly wronged. Even if I had the guts, I wouldn't dare embezzle your money." Hearing this, she only coldly replied, "Humph, don't be so hasty." At that moment, officers from the magistrate's office appeared, causing the onlookers to quickly step aside. One officer stepped forward and formally reporting to Your Highness, "We found 520 taels of silver in the shopkeeper of Wan Xiangji's house. It's all real silver. Based on his income, if he hadn't embezzled, he couldn't have possibly earned such a large sum." The officers then opened a wooden chest behind him. Inside, it was filled with silver, gleaming brightly, astonishing everyone present. The shopkeeper's face was ashen with fear, his whole body trembling. After hearing the report, Ling Jiangli simply said, "All right, take him away." The officers immediately carried out their orders without delay. One of them bowed before leaving. Ling Jiangli then slowly rose and instructed Tao Fun, "Send someone to do a few things. Post a notice on the public board. First, clearly explain how Wan Xiangge was slandered and post it in front of the shop to clarify the truth. Second, spread the word everywhere that Wan Xiangge is reopening. For the first 3 days, every customer will receive a special sachet. Third, give the medicine and incense I've prepared to the madams who had allergic reactions as an apology." Ling Jiangli then stood before the shop and announced in a strong voice, "Wan Xiangge is open for business as usual." Passers-by urged each other, "Wan Xiangge has new products. Hurry, let's go." Excited women jostled to get in. Sikong Nanjian could only retreat, his face darkening in frustration. Those in front excitedly asked, "Shopkeeper, do you still have 5 portions left?" After a period of chaos, it took him a long while to squeeze out of the crowd. He looked up and sighed. So many people. It seems this crisis can be resolved smoothly after all. Suddenly, a carriage sped past, catching her attention. The window curtains fluttered in the wind. Ling Jiangli sat inside, excitedly saying, "Let's go find Nguhan Khan and settle the score." Night slowly fell, blanketing the Yu Huang courtyard. She stepped down the desolate corridor, calling out anxiously, "Xia Shui, Tu Feng, is anyone there?" Suddenly, a scream echoed from afar. The sound startled her, and she cried out in alarm, "Nguhan Khan." Then, she quickly ran towards the source of the sound. Just as she opened the door to the room, she was met with the blood-soaked body of Nguhan Khan. He lay motionless on the cold floor, his eyes dimly visible behind a thin white veil. She rushed to his side and quickly embraced his blood-drenched form. In his delirium, he clung tightly to her. His face was pale, his eyes unfocused. It took a moment for his breathing to stabilize. Just then, Xia Shui appeared at the doorway. "Jiang Li, why are you here?" she asked, her eyes wide with surprise. The scene before her left Xia Shui speechless. Noticing someone approaching, Ling Jiangli quickly gestured to be quiet. Then, she looked down tenderly at the man in her arms and asked, "Are you awake?" She quickly helped him onto the bed. Ling Jiangli didn't leave his side. She gently wiped the blood away and slowly bandaged the numerous wounds on his hands. As she worked, she tilted her head and asked Xia Shui, "Why is he covered in wounds like this?" Xia Shui hesitated, lowering her head as she replied, "It's a long story." Ling Jiangli calmly said, "Then make it short." The two quickly stepped out into the corridor. Ling Jiangli immediately asked, "Tell me, what happened?" Xia Shui hesitated before replying, "Just now, the prince had an episode. I wanted to stay and care for him, but he insisted I leave. I could only go and fetch some medicine in case he needed it." Hearing this, Ling Jiangli spoke frankly, "You know that's not what I meant. Things have gotten to this point. Xia Shui, what else are you hiding from me?" Knowing she couldn't hide it any longer, Xia Shui sighed. Then, she calmly explained, "Years ago, the prince suffered a severe illness. Every full moon, he has an episode. His whole body feels like it's being bitten by thousands of ants. It's incredibly painful. But to this day, we haven't found a way to cure this strange ailment. That's why he hasn't returned to the prince's residence. There's a reason for everything." Hearing this, Ling Jiangli asked suspiciously, "Then where did the wounds on his body come from?" Xia Shui slowly replied, "They're from when he accidentally injured himself during the episode." But hearing her evasive answer, Ling Jiangli couldn't help but press further. "What?" Xia Shui quickly continued. "Prince, His previous episodes weren't like this. He would just lie still and sleep. This time was different. Do you by any chance have a particular calming scent on you? She asked, stepping closer to Ling Jiangli. Hearing this, Ling Jiangli was stunned for a moment, then softly said, I did apply a new fragrance I recently made. A suspicion arose in Ling Jiangli's mind. The fragrance was just something she'd whipped up on a whim, based on 3 ancient formulas. She hadn't expected it to have such an effect. Suddenly, Xia Shui suggested, something with such an effect. Next time, use more of it so the prince doesn't have to suffer all day. Ling Jiangli smiled and agreed, certainly. Then, they both returned to the room. Ling Jiangli walked ahead, saying, the room is quite messy. Find someone to clean it up. I'll help the prince get some sleep. Xia Shui followed behind, quickly bowing her head and replying yes. The night passed under the gentle light of the full moon. Not until the next day did Ngahan Khan groggily wake up. He was holding her from behind. After a moment of observing her sleeping face, he suddenly startled awake and loudly called for Xia Shui to quickly fetch a physician. Ling Jiangli was ill. Not long after, the physician quickly arrived and took Ling Jiangli's pulse. After a moment of diagnosis, he bowed respectfully and said, it must be due to the cold wind last night. Only then did Ngahan Khan slowly approach the person lying on the bed, his eyes full of worry. He gently reached out and stroked her pale face. Suddenly, Xia Shui, standing behind him, bowed respectfully and said, Your Highness, this time it was this subordinate's negligence. Whenever the princess consort happens to encounter Your Highness during your episodes, I can only reveal everything. This subordinate asks for punishment. Hearing this, he simply replied indifferently, leave. Why did she fall ill? He asked. Xia Shui quickly recounted, last night, the wind was strong. The princess consort held you and sat in front of your room for a very long time. It's likely because of that she caught a chill. Hearing this, Ngahan Khan fell silent for a moment, then instructed, I understand. Go and instruct Thursday Fong to prepare the medicine. Xia Shui bowed her head in acknowledgement and immediately left the room, gently closing the door. Suddenly, the person lying on the bed weakly murmured, water. He immediately helped her sit up and brought a bowl of water to her hand. After drinking, Ling Jiangli slowly said, thank you. Then, he calmly said, the physician said you've caught a chill. Don't rush back to the princess consort's residence just yet. Rest in Yuhuang courtyard for a few days. Saying this, he turned his wheelchair to leave. Suddenly, she hurriedly stood up and called out after him, wait. However, having just stood up, her still weak body was unstable, and she stumbled and fell to the floor. Seeing this, he was startled and immediately rushed towards her. She was now rolled up tightly in the blankets like a sushi roll, dizzy and stammering. Help! Help me! Ngahan Khan didn't say another word. He reached out his hand to her, then lifted her, blankets and all, and carefully placed her back on the bed. After everything, he softly said, so foolish. Hearing him say this, she angrily snapped, who told you to leave so quickly? He listened to her complaint and calmly replied, I was only going to change my clothes. He then brought the bowl of medicine from the table and offered it to her, his voice softening as he urged, drink your medicine first. Looking at the bowl of medicine in his hand, the person lying on the bed paled with fear. But in the end, she obediently drank the entire bitter bowl. After finishing the medicine, Ling Jiangli turned to the person beside her, her eyes serious, and softly asked, you know about Wang Rui's matter? He replied indifferently. Hearing this, she couldn't help but ask tentatively, do you have any objections to my arrangements? Ngahan Khan fell silent for a moment before hesitantly replying, yes. Hearing this, she seemed to transform into a demon, gritting her teeth and demanding, what did you say? Seeing her anger, he remained calm, simply saying, actually, you could have directly dismissed her from the residence. She was taken aback and stammered, that wouldn't be very good. After all, she's your concubine. You're so cold-blooded. A day of marriage vows, 100 days of kindness, and you dismiss her just like that. Hearing her accusations, he simply lowered his head and softly replied, actually, I've never touched her. I haven't touched any of them. The atmosphere in the room suddenly became strangely quiet. It took a moment for Ling Jiangli to exclaim in surprise. After hearing those words, Ling Jiangli suddenly felt a strange emotion welling up inside her. Why did she feel a flicker of happiness? She was startled by her own reaction and quickly tried to suppress the feeling. It doesn't make sense. If we haven't met, how could he have Diao Yao? She muttered, glancing at the person opposite her with suspicion. At this moment, Nguyen Khan slowly answered her question, his gaze calm and distant. Diao Yao is not my biological daughter. You only need to know that. As for the other details, I will tell you if there is an opportunity. Hearing this, she rested her chin on her hand and said lazily, fine. You truly are a classmate with your own story. Inside the room, the lamplight gently illuminated two figures. One of them spoke first, her voice filled with excitement. Look here. This travelogue was written by a famous author, Shang Xian. It describes many strange customs of the Xian Tian kingdom. How wonderful it would be if we had a chance to go there in the future. She chattered nonstop as she looked at the pages, while he listened thoughtfully. After a while, he asked, "Do you want to go?" Upon hearing the question, the person beside him quickly replied with eagerness, "I certainly do. I'm tired of looking at the same flowers every day. I want to go somewhere far away for a change of scenery." At this, Nguyen Khan slowly spoke, his voice slightly stern. The capital of Xiantian is far to the north. The emperor is currently stationed there. Hearing this, Ling Jiangli hesitated, a hint of doubt in her eyes. Your brother? Seeing her mention his relative, he unconsciously clenched his fists and replied through gritted teeth, yes. Suddenly, Thursday Fong's voice came from outside. Hearing the noise, he said, "What is it?" Thursday Fong immediately bowed respectfully and said, "Your Highness, the new year is almost here. This servant would like to ask if Your Highness will be returning to the manor to celebrate the new year this year." Hearing this, Ling Jiangli immediately sat up, her eyes wavering as she hesitantly said, "The atmosphere in the manor is always stifling. It would definitely tire me out further. Why don't you all go back? I'll celebrate the new year here." The person beside her then asked, "You don't like it?" She frowned slightly and asked back with a suspicious look, "Do you like it?" Thursday Fong, with sharp eyes, seemed to realize something and quickly suggested, "Your Highness, why don't we stay at Yuhuang Courtyard this year?" Hearing these words, Ling Jiangli excitedly said, "Great, great. Your Highness and I and Xia Shui and Thursday Fong call Xianlei too. The few of us can celebrate the new year together." Then she turned to the person beside her and asked excitedly, "All right?" "All right." Gahan Khan thought for a moment before replying, "All right, let's do it this way this year." Seeing her suggestion approved, she immediately celebrated, raising her hands and shouting, "Long live." As night fell at Yuhuang Courtyard, Ling Jiangli was instructing Thursday Fong on how to paste the red couplets a little to the right. "Okay, paste it." After a while of diligently decorating, they finally finished. Thursday Fong quickly admired their handiwork and said, "Your Highness, these couplets seem a bit unconventional." Looking at the couplets he had just pasted, she slowly explained. She gripped the red paper tightly in both hands, as if emphasizing each word. Suddenly, a bright voice called from inside, "Dinner's ready. Come and eat." The table was laden with delicious dishes, the aroma filling and warming the room. Everyone sat together, chatting and eating in a convivial atmosphere. Xianlei quietly said to the person beside her, "Since the princess consort married into the manor, you seem much healthier." Hearing this, Gahan Khan asked in surprise, "Really?" Xianlei quickly replied, "Yes. Yuhuang Courtyard is very lively now. You also seem very relaxed." Thursday Fong and Xia Shui were incredibly grateful for the princess consort's presence. Suddenly, someone across from them gestured toward Xianlei and questioned her. Xianlei then whispered something to the prince. Hearing this, the other person simply replied nonchalantly. Xianlei, not daring to refuse, raised her wine glass. Seeing this, Ling Jiangli enthusiastically continued, "Then you must drink a cup as a penalty, no objections." Nguyen Khan, observing the scene before him, couldn't help but smile and murmur to himself, "Perhaps it truly is like that." After the meal, Thursday Fong and Xianlei lit fireworks. The night sky was quickly illuminated by the brilliant light of the fireworks, lighting up the entire area. Everyone looked up, admiring the scene with sparkling eyes full of happiness. Suddenly, Gahan Khan asked, "Beautiful, isn't it?" Hearing him, Ling Jiangli didn't hesitate to look at him and reply immediately, "Very beautiful." At this moment, his gaze lowered slightly, revealing a deep emotion. Meanwhile, the person behind him, face flushed, lowered their head slightly and stammered. Ling Jiangli said to him, "Gahan Khan, I have something to tell you." Hearing this, the person beside him curiously asked, "What is it?" Ling Jiangli, mustering all her courage, her eyes sparkling with determination, confessed, "I think I've fallen for you." This concludes this episode of the story. If you enjoyed it, please give a like and a share so I can be motivated to create more videos. Remember to subscribe to watch the next episodes. I wish you all a day full of energy.